Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Richard.
I'm concerned about how we're going to record this in an hour and a half.
Yeah, we are probably going to have to extend this drive in some capacity because there's a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, this is one of... I will say we're doing Anthrocon this week. I think we
You
mentioned
should also actually state your name
They
for the
already
record.
know my name. It's literally in the credits. Plus, we're at Anthrocon, a con where no one knows my name, yet knows who I am. It's kind of great.
Yeah, this is fair.
Like, multiple people know me, but do not know what my name is, and I don't even have a persona, so they don't even know what that is. It's kind of great that it's referred to us as them in weird gesticular manners. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, on your badge this time you did literally write, "I'm not telling you my name."
Yeah, and I wrote English Edgelord on yours.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been at Anthrocon this weekend.
Anthrocon. My name is Caroline, by the way, in case you want to know. Also, like 6 other names now because we keep going to furry conventions. It's fine. And we've explained what furry conventions are on other podcasts, so go look at those. I don't really feel like explaining the nuances when we do not have a lot of time.
Yeah,
so.
If you want to hear that, go listen to the Motor City FurryCon episode.
Also, I appreciate our podcast episodes are ridiculously long. I'm sorry.
That's fact. So, before we begin this podcast, we do have something fairly important we do want to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck! Is your phone still on?
My phone is still on.
Did anything get damaged?
Not that I can see.
I'm sorry I cursed.
It's okay. I knocked over a bottle of pop.
It was. I was mostly done with it. It's fine.
Yep. It's fine. It's fizzing slightly, but we're good.
We're good. It's not on my dress.
It does not appear to be. I think it mostly went in there. We might need to,
Well, we'll need to stop for gas in a bit. So.
Yeah. So, and there is actually kitchen roll in the car at the moment, so we can clean that up in a minute.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, we'll fix that later.
That was not the important thing we needed to talk about.
No. Now I feel really guilty about the important thing we need to talk about.
That's fair. Let me pull up the thing while you explain the situation.
So, there is a regular performer at the furry cons we go to, Iggy Dinosaur, who unfortunately needs a kidney. And the last time we were at a convention with them, they had really good news that they had a kidney donor, everything was in place, they were working through the process. About a week ago, they found out that their donor is not going to be able to donate that kidney.
And they did explain more of this at the con. Basically, they do a general health markup to make sure that the donor is fine. They found something they didn't expect to find very late in the process. It wasn't anyone's fault.
No, it's not like anybody backed out. Like
No.
the donor, as I understand it, there's one kidney that's easier to donate than the other, and the donor was willing to try and donate the trickier one, but
So basically, you have a dominant and a non-dominant kidney. So I'm a bioethicist because most parts of your body have a dominant or non-dominant one. You're supposed to donate the non-dominant one because, one, it's less used, and also it tends to be smaller and easier to get out of your body, blah-de-blah-de-blue. There was a problem with that one. The dominant one, people don't tend to like to donate, and there were also problems with it.
Yeah.
So, Iggy he's a great person. We've met him at a few cons. He's very awesome. Iggy, I don't think is his real name, but it's what he goes by. If you want to find more information about donating a kidney, go to iggyland.org. That's IGGYLAND.org.
Yep.
Or you can just type in Iggy needs a kidney into Google. Just IGGY needs a kidney into Google. It's the first thing that pops up.
Yep. And I will also be putting links to that in the show notes.
Yes.
And
Iggy's very understanding about a lot of people can't donate for a variety of reasons, whether or not it's illness or just inability, or some people only have one kidney.
Yep.
But if you're at all curious about this, or it's been something you've been thinking about doing, and you just haven't had a reason to push you over the edge,
you haven't had a specific thing,
go to the website. They'll pay for pretty much everything that you do for this. So if you go to the website or call the number on the website, they'll direct you to somebody. You can go get checked out, see if you're eligible. Keep in mind you can obviously back out at any point. And if it's something you're curious about doing, it doesn't hurt to take that first step.
It doesn't. And the other thing is, if you can't donate for whatever reason, share the information.
Yeah.
Just doesn't have to be much. He's got the various social medias and shareable posts there. Every little helps.
And he did also clarify that it takes about 4 weeks to process and stuff like that from when you start to when they can clear you. So it's something for which we won't know for some time what the situation is, which is why it's important for anyone who's willing to just kind of start and go through the process.
Yeah.
As evidenced by this, stuff can go wrong late in the game, so you want to make sure that you have a couple backup options there to continue to go through the process. So we're crossing all our fingers for him and helping any way we can.
Yeah.
And we might have him as a guest on the podcast, so he can plug that himself at some point.
Yeah. He did express an interest in probably a Zoom call or a Discord call or something like that to talk about that and talk about general convention stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah. And that issue I want to emphasize is way more important than us spilling a soda.
Yep, absolutely.
Great job, honey.
Yeah, you get one curse word per podcast based on the the nominal PG-13 rating it's got. So
I mean, that was a pretty good one.
That was a good use of it.
Okay.
Especially for a podcast that we record driving in our car, so just having you curse unexpectedly.
Oh yeah, I didn't hit the disclaimer with that. That might have sounded scary if you knew we were driving in our car. We're using hands-free lapel mics, and there was a lawyer we've been talking to all weekend. Legally, we're in keeping with all the laws in both, in this case, Pennsylvania and Ohio, which both allow hands-free driving, and we're very confident this is perfectly safe because this is a conversation we have on the drive home anyway. It
is. You don't mean hands-free driving, you mean hands-free recording devices while driving.
Yes. We don't have a self-driving car, though we do have a car that uses auto stuff. So
yeah, it's got the usual lane control stuff, but my hands are on the wheel at all times.
His hands are on the wheel at all times, and as you can see in other podcasts, we do stop the podcast if we think road conditions are unsafe for us to be doing this.
But the weather today is bright and sunny and fun. So, we'll see. Hopefully we won't have a storm like the end of last week's. Yeah. Also, the person next to us has a lot of ducks on their dashboard.
Okay, we have an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. It's great, isn't it?
We're so bad at this.
So, Anthrocon. Anthrocon is debatably the biggest furry convention in the world. And the only reason it's debatable is there's a couple that are basically jockeying for the top spot. I think they keep outdoing each other in terms of numbers.
Yeah, I'm not going to... The number's around 20,000. We don't know what it exactly is or what they said it is. They did, due to events last year, set a cap on registration. So for pre-registration, they could only fill up to 98% of ticket sales with that cap. I don't think they met that based on what I was hearing in the Discord servers and stuff like that, nor do I know what the actual cap number was, but they were close.
Mm-hmm. And we had a brief conversation with somebody who was working registration, who's somebody we've met at this con a couple of times.
We're not going to say their name because we don't know if they're comfortable with that.
Yeah, we didn't get permission to actually say their name, but somebody who worked registration told us that they registered around 12,000 people on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's a doozy, people.
Yeah, this is, I would say, the most intense con that we do. We've not done Gen Con yet, so we'll see how that compares. That might be equally or more intense, but keep in mind a lot of these people are fursuiters. There's a lot of elaborate costuming going on. And the Pittsburgh Convention Center, which we'll probably talk about shortly, is a good convention center. I like it. It's not the best for crowd control.
Yes, there's a couple of what I think are
there
slightly
bad bottleneck areas in it.
There are a couple of what I think are slightly bad design decisions.
It is a gorgeous convention center. It's probably the prettiest convention center of any of the ones we've been to.
It is. It's a lovely building to actually be in, but once it starts to get towards capacity, there are some issues that pop up, and we'll kind of talk about those. In fact,
so we want to talk about that now just because we haven't really, this is a new convention center. We've not described the space of it yet.
Yes. So the convention center is kind of interestingly shaped in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So it's basically got two sections with a pedestrian walkway and actually single-track road through the middle, or two single-track roads, I should say, one going in each direction through the middle, and then connecting them on floors 2, 3, and 4 is kind of the main body of the convention center. And I do think they have full-on halls and things down on those first floors as well. And then the sort of third and fourth floors are split kind of in half, but fourth floor's mostly a roof garden. I'm going to be honest, this is one where you need a map to actually understand what the heck I'm talking about.
Yeah, there are several levels. There's a bridge you can pass over, some of the lower halls and look stuff down. There's a roof garden on the top. It's very elaborately designed. I don't think it holds as many people as the Greater Columbus Convention Center, though, which can be a bit of an issue for stuff. It is a gorgeous space, though.
It is an absolutely fabulous space.
It also has an interesting quirk insofar as one hotel, there might be multiple hotels that are connected, but one hotel that is connected via one of the like large auditorium rooms. Like you have to walk through the large auditorium room to get to the sky bridge to go to the hotel.
Yeah. You don't technically have to. It's just that's where the staircase is. If you want to, if you're willing to use the lift and wait for the line for that, you can get it without going through that ballroom. But yeah,
I assume that's because they built the sky bridge across later, and that was just the only place they could conceivably put the stairs, and you have to have stairs because it's a safety hazard to not.
Yeah, that would be my guess. But it does mean that one of the entrances into that main ballroom, which was being used as main events at this particular convention, basically just had one of the doors into it had a big sign that just said "This way to the Western" or "This way to the Western Sky Bridge," and then they kind of sealed off the a small part of the room with just curtain barriers. Mm-hmm. So you would walk through that door, go round to the staircase, and then descend that way. So, bit of a weird design choice, but again, I suspect you're right. It probably was an add-on later.
Yeah.
And Skybridge to the Western, super useful because this convention was also using parts of the Western Hotel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were using even more additional space, and pretty much everywhere from the time we got there to the time we left was heating.
Yeah. It's been busy.
Yes.
About the only times we've seen it quiet were, when we first arrived, because we got in relatively quickly for reasons we'll talk about, once we get chronological. And, this morning when we wanted to go to a 9 a.m. panel on Sunday. So it was pretty quiet then, but by the time we left, and for record, it's currently about 2 p.m. on the Sunday, it's heaving still. Furry cons barely slow down on Sunday afternoon because most people are going to be staying. A lot of people are going to be staying tonight as well.
Yeah, they have another Furry cons. I think we talked about the last time we reviewed them. Tend to have dances every single night, including the last night. Mm-hmm. In part to keep people from driving home drunk. Valid.
Yep.
And in part just because anyone who's flying is going to stay Wednesday typically through these days Monday. So they just have another Dead Dog Dance, and again, it's anyone who's staying is still clearly staying, I think, for another night for the most part. So.
Yeah. Whereas again, we've got an hour and a half. It's about an hour 45, hour 50, depending on traffic, drive for us this one. So we contemplated whether or not we were going to do this one, just by driving back and forth. But given that there was some late night stuff on Thursday we wanted to go to, and some early morning stuff today, we got an Airbnb.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk more about that. I'm trying to think. So Anthrocon is like other cons, non-profit type of con. It's one of the biggest furry cons. It's run by a person called Uncle Kage. That just means he's the con chairman, not that he owns the con in any official capacity, which I think is its own entity. And based on its work with charity, I would suspect it's a non-profit. But again, I'm not a lawyer who specializes in for-profit.
I'm assuming it is a non-profit, and we have been explicitly told in the past that literally nobody is taking a salary. Not even Uncle Kage is taking a salary. Every single person who works for this 20,000 person convention is a volunteer. And they raise insane amounts for charity.
Which does also put it, I think I've talked about this before, in a bit of a tricky area in terms of review, because as you know, we tend to be a bit harsher with things that are for-profit entities. Mm-hmm. Anthrocon is not. But at the same time, it's a 20,000 person con. Multiple people are in fursuits. Safety hazards happen, and you do have to be protected of that.
Yeah.
That said, Anthrocon does do, as far as I can tell, a really good job of listening to feedback and trying to find solutions to those problems. And there were less fire hazards this year.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the fire hazard thing from last year. But one thing in particular, last year there was a lot of complaints about the registration line. Mm-hmm. And this year looked much better.
Yes, although we weren't in the normal registration line. We should probably get into that, I guess.
Yeah, so first thing we did when we arrived was we parked.
Yes.
Parking at the David Lawrence Convention Center, which is what it's officially called. It's the main convention center in Pittsburgh. There is a specific parking lot for the convention center. It was $15 a day for the entire convention.
Which these days, after seeing like some stuff cranked up to $35 a day, seemed like a great price.
Yeah, so we basically spent $60 on parking over the weekend because we got a spot there every day.
I also do think it does help. Like the main lot people actually park in is the Greyhound lot, which I think is like $5 a day. That's a bit of a longer walk, but not by much.
Yeah.
It's easier for us because I'm generally ball gowning and also disabled to just park in that particular lot. It's closer. We got there early. It was never completely full. We got there and it was generally like serviceable, like for what you need it to be.
Yep. Again, it's a parking garage.
Yep.
There's only so much you can say about them, but it is undercover, which in July heat of 93 degrees outside and bright sunshine, especially if you are people who are checking into an Airbnb and are bringing food with you, undercover parking lot, very, very helpful.
Yeah. It is also worth noting it was less hot. This is our second time going to this convention, and it was less hot this year, which I think was appreciated by all.
Yeah, I think it topped 100 degrees last year, and I don't know if it did this weekend or not.
And also worth noting, if you're somehow listening to this other time periods and didn't look at the date, 4th of July weekend, which I think is traditional. It was over 4th of July weekend last year, too.
Yeah. Well, again, I suspect there's a certain advantage to that because it means that, one, a bunch of furries don't have to spend 4th of July with their families. And two, most people are likely to have Friday off. And if you're already having to take a day off, on Thursday and then, possibly one on Monday, depending on, where you are and how much you need to travel and all that jazz, it probably is easier. Especially as I'm assuming, certainly where I work, my holiday days, reset last week because they reset on July 1st.
I was wondering about that. I don't know if that's like more unique to universities because keep in mind for faculty, we pretty much always start July, August, so they might just do it around the faculty schedule, even for staff, just to make it easier.
I think it's the financial year, or at least I know that the reason that the specific date that mine reset was July 1st was the financial year. So, but anyway, so we got there, and there was already a line outside, except. This year, they closed off that central section I mentioned, and we're using that as basically a queuing area, but it is under shade, which is a very good decision because it meant that people weren't standing out in the hot sun in fursuits this year.
It's still outside, but they weren't standing in the sun in hot fursuits. There wasn't like traffic being blocked. It was a lot better, I think, experience for everyone involved. It did mean we had to circle around the parking lot because where we parked was like through that area, but it was fairly easy for us to get to. Yeah.
And so we got to experience the joys of the ADA line because you are somebody who requires the ADA line.
It is something I feel a bit guilty about because I'm not physically disabled and don't appear obviously disabled, and it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just hard as a disabled person to know that you're entitled to accommodations, even though I do realistically know that me being in that main line would have been an impossibility for me. Yeah. I do know that 100%.
Yeah. And again, I will say this. The staff working that registration line were fantastic about it. Like, I basically just went up to, pretty much the first staff person we saw and said, excuse me, where is the ADA line? And they basically said, okay, it's over there. You'll have to kind of walk around this bit. And there should be somebody else over there to kind of help direct you. And said, great, perfect, thanks. So we walked up, we sort of looped around, we caught another staffer, and again, I basically asked the same question. They said, it's just over there. It's the same line as the super sponsor, like top tier VIP people. Okay. So we went, we kind of stood at the back of that, and they were sort of letting people into the sort of main hall in batches, or I say the main hall, one of the lower halls. Which was their registration space. We were probably stood outside for what?
2-ish minutes, not even.
3 minutes, yeah. Well, at that point, kind of like our group from that VIP line got let in. Once everybody was into the hall, there was a bunch of signage hanging from the ceiling, because this was one of the classic sort of,
And Uncle Kage, the chairman of the con, was out there greeting everyone, at least in the VIP and sponsor line. He smiled lightly at us. So.
Fair and valid.
We have met him before. I don't know if he remembers us personally.
He probably doesn't, but this is a man who sees
thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I do emphasize it's probably greeting the VIPs, not the people in the ADA line, but we were treated the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we got a polite smile. I suspect if I'd gone for a handshake, I probably would have gotten a handshake, but
why would you have done that? That would have just been weird.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
So inside they had like ceiling stuff, basically directing people which line to go through. There was one for ADA that we spotted pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There were some chairs against the wall. We asked if this was the ADA line. Apparently it was just people sitting down, but then we pretty quickly found where it was supposed to start. There was one person who was directing it. He and a person who I think was in charge of ADA were talking at the time we walked up about like making sure the information was like out there and that everyone who was ADA would know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
They were having conversations about making sure that that was really apparent, which was awesome to kind of see.
Yep.
And we pretty much immediately walked up to get our badge.
Yep. So the badge getting process, pretty straightforward. Hand over your ID. Because Furrycons, interestingly, are the ones that are real big on ID checks.
Yes.
Like, they like to make sure that the person who bought the badge, or whose official name is on the badge, is the one getting it. And I suspect that's because the furry community has had a couple of bad eggs in the past. There are people who have been banned from furry conventions for one reason or another.
Not all of them are necessarily furries either. Furries also just get irrational hatred from people.
That is also
evidenced by MCFC has had multiple bomb threats. Like, there's some people who aren't part of a furry community who will just, I guess, pay $80 to go be obnoxious to furries for a weekend, which find something better to do with your time if that's you.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a few people who just kind of aren't allowed at these conventions, which is fair. The other advantage of them doing that is, we went up, all the jazz, we got handed our badges. Our badges are green.
Yep.
Throughout, or have a sort of green like highlight around the edge of them.
Yeah, which just means we're normal attendees. They had different colors depending on what group you're a part of. So I think special sponsor or super sponsor, they had a bunch of tiers of sponsorships.
Yeah.
I got a special color, and they also had
what I believe were orange ones
for minors.
Yeah. Which meant that we didn't have to do like ID checks at doors for 18 plus panels. It was just a case of green badge, okay, you can come in.
Yep.
Orange badge, no. Nice and simple and straightforward.
Yeah. The downside of this is because they're doing ID checks and you have to like scan the ID to make sure it's matched with a badge in the system.
Mm-hmm.
It does take a bit longer. And I also do want to emphasize that like it's a bit unclear. We got there around 12 when registration was supposed to actually open.
Mm-hmm.
It might have opened earlier than that, just not keep people waiting. I've heard contradictory things.
Yeah, I suspect they opened the doors at least a little early, but how early, I haven't the foggiest.
And not a lot of people looked inside and registered when we went up. So that person might have been new or trying to figure stuff out. Also, we were working accessibility, which tends to have less people going through it generally.
Mm-hmm.
So that person might have still been trying to figure out how to do their job.
Yeah.
But I want to emphasize anyone who works registration at an event like this is a saint,
mm-hmm.
and they deserve no criticism.
Yep. Like that. It ran, as far as we could see from our personal experience, it was running smooth.
Yes.
I do get the impression the line was close to a 2-hour wait by,
Those are some of the estimates I've seen in the Discord and other stuff like that.
Yeah. But I'm going to be honest, for an event that size, that's not unusual. I think...
And I do want to, again, be clear. I can't physically wait in a line like that, especially outside. It's just not possible for me.
So yeah, the one thing I will say is it was a clear improvement from last year.
Yeah,
it seems... I was just going to say, my argument is usually there are going to be things that you are going to screw up. What matters is how you avoid making those mistakes again. And I do think they avoided making those specific mistakes again.
I will say I would have liked to see, just as a very mild criticism, better like signing for ADA outside as well. I think they might have been in the process of trying to get that up because I heard them talking about how to make ADA stuff more transparent.
Yeah.
So you do have to talk to 3 or 4 different people to actually get there.
Yeah.
If you have a disability that makes it hard for you to talk to people, which is a lot of them, like because I was already in a state where it was physically difficult to talk just being outside,
mm-hmm.
you had to do a lot of advocating for me.
Yes.
Not everyone's as lucky as me is to have an awesome... handler when I'm talking about disability seems like an improper word. Husband?
Again, I know what you mean. And again, I am your cosplay handler in addition to, everything else.
So yeah. Also, just briefly, because we mentioned that, talk about costumes,
mm-hmm.
I was doing a Stunky costume from Pokemon on Thursday.
Which is a ball gown.
Yes, because it was our first day there, getting a sense of the crowds and everything, but all my costumes this weekend got a good reaction. Furries are a great crowd for if you want to do elaborate costumes. So it was a pretty smooth, in terms of just pure time for us, and I do recognize that our situation is unique because I'm unable to stand in long lines. We were in and out in less than 15 minutes, which is impeccable, I'm going to emphasize.
Yes, that's very, very good for a,
And really respectful of people with disabilities, which is awesome.
Like, again, we've been to plenty of cons that don't have an ADA line just because they don't need them.
That's fine.
Anthrocon needs it, and it was very well handled.
Like with smaller furry cons like MCFC or Anthro-Ohio, like neither of those lines were long enough for which it mattered.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a con that needs an accessibility line, just because I'm unable to do that.
Yeah. And again, nobody asked any questions. We sometimes when something says it's going to have ADA accessibility, they'll try to make you prove that you need it to prove you're not just defrauding the system.
Which they're not legally allowed to do, by the way.
Yeah, they're not. That doesn't stop someone trying.
And generally with furry cons, when I say I'm disabled, no one questions it. And I think the education about invisible disabilities has gotten better and better.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where if you saw me in a context outside of lines, you wouldn't notice this whatsoever.
No.
But if you saw me down there, visibly shaking, it would be
so
a different experience. So I'm glad more education's getting out. Another thing we might talk about this later, but just briefly, I am appreciative about how much more education about how fragile and expensive microphones are is getting out. We saw a lot of that this weekend of people almost dropping microphones and panicking and catching them last minute.
Yeah.
Not because they were being careless,
just because half of them were wearing fursuits.
Yeah, and also with panels stuff gets out. So we got in there pretty early.
We did. So I had an opportunity to grab some food at the venue. And okay, here's what I'm going to say about the David Lawrence Convention Center. Your food is aggressively fine. It is ludicrously overpriced.
It's $6 for soda and water.
Yep.
The con did have free water because it's dumb to do that if you don't have fursuits.
Yeah, but that was only in the Western.
Yeah, I did notice that.
The Western had free water. The convention center did not. So yeah, $6 for a bottle of water. That is extortion. You should feel bad about yourselves.
You should, but if you want to feel bad about that, at least congratulate yourselves, and you don't seem to at least care on a practical level whether people bring in outside food or drink. Thank you for that.
Yes, you have an official rule that says, you're not allowed to do that.
Do they?
I think they do.
I don't know.
Who knows, but...
No bags checking, because that would be... At a FurryCon, bag checking would be the most insane thing ever, so I'm glad they don't do that.
Yep. But yeah, so... let's face it, I literally walked in with Taco Bell one morning for various reasons. But anyway, so...
Yeah, we had Taco Bell twice this weekend.
My diet is not doing good with our convention schedule. It's fine.
Yeah, you still need to find you're just... Okay, if anyone's listening out there and wants to recommend something...
Hi, both of you.
Be nice. We tend to, I, as you probably know, can't eat food. I explained this on a freaking podcast. I can, but I have to prepare meals at home, which is why we have to stay in Airbnbs, because I need a kitchen to be able to cook the stuff that I need.
Yep.
You need to find just some day thing that you can just eat and bring with you. We just haven't found what that is, because you don't like snacks. You don't really sandwiches don't really work. You can't just pack a meal for yourself that's transportable.
Yeah.
And we need to find one that is.
This is the thing. I just missed the UK's bog standard lunch meal deal. They're great.
The US has stuff like that. You're just kind of a snob about it.
All the pre-made sandwiches in the US are stupidly expensive. The UK version, to get the equivalent of what I would get in the UK, I basically have to pay 3 times the price. And that just bothers me.
You can just buy your own ingredients and make your own sandwich.
Yeah, I know, but it's not fun. Again, I did do that last week. And that slowed us down in the morning. And now you're going to tell me I need to make the sandwiches the night before and be prepared and all that.
Yeah, it's not that much forethought, honey.
Yeah, I know. But anyway.
I think it's also just partially because I have to plan my meals ridiculously ahead. This is not even something that I cognitively think about at this point. It's just I need to do that. It's just background noise to me, whereas for you it's not, and I do recognize that.
Yeah. But yeah, so, again, your convention center food is perfectly fine, but boy, is it overpriced. And I ate way too much of it this weekend. So,
First, you ran out to get gum.
yep. Yeah, because we had a miscommunication.
This happens, like, we generally, because of the amount of conventions we go to, we have packing down to a pretty good science, but you're always going to inevitably forget stuff. And in this case, gum, something normally I grab, and half the time you grab, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, like, I thought you'd grabbed a full pack. You actually just grabbed the currently open pack because you thought I'd grabbed a new one.
And if you're wondering why this is important, again, my stomach sucks. It just does.
Mm-hmm.
I need this to keep it happy during the day when it's not having food.
Yeah.
So you ran out to get that?
Yep.
I hung out there. There was nothing on. It's worth noting that registration was at 12. We got there pretty much at 12.
Mm-hmm.
And because we were ADA, which again, thank you for that, we were upstairs by basically 12:15, and events didn't even start until 2.
Yep. So it gave me, like, half an hour to run out to, like, a 7-Eleven that was, like, what, 10-minute walk away?
Yeah. And while you were gone, a group of people asked her, just like, hi, do you remind me and, like, a ridiculously large number of my friends sit at your table? And this convention, it's an extremely crowded convention. There's maybe, like, 20 tables up there, and there's rapidly growing to be more and more people up there as they get through registration. I was like, sure, because I didn't really want to, like, block a whole table off to myself. Like, I just felt bad about doing that. So I said, sure. People were nice. They, like, talked to me, at least briefly.
Yep.
And they were clearly excited and clearly like a group of friends that gets together for Anthrocon. So that it was fun to kind of see them chat with each other.
So again, I ran out. I could not find the brand of gum you like at the 7-Eleven, but I found it at a dodgy as all heck, like, small local corner store type thing on the walk back.
Yeah. And I do also want to highlight, because this will be relevant later, this group of people did everything right in that social interaction. They asked before they sat down. They
Mm-hmm.
notified me that there were a large group of them, and they didn't mind that I continued sitting at the table.
Yep.
They were perfectly nice individuals. Thank you for doing that, because we've been in situations before where people just kind of sit down at your table, which, if it's a larger table, I do get that, but just, like, at least ask. It's polite.
Yep. So, what was the first thing we actually did?
Role-playing games discussion with
yeah.
Dragor.
Ah, yes.
And as a reminder, everyone has personas. I'm not going to explain what a persona is. Figure it out.
Yep. So, this was over in the Western. And specifically, this was in the kind of board gaming-y space. Or one of the rooms in that kind of gaming area. Mm-hmm. Which is also where they have the video game room and all of that jazz. And Dragor is somebody we've seen in the past at a few of these. Very nice chap.
Yeah. Generally, these cons do have, like, a level of, like, I guess, we call them comedians. They might just be celebrities or panelists who just kind of work a bunch of cons and all know each other. So
Yep.
Dragor's part of it.
Yep.
I think tortured him at an improv panel.
You did? He remembered you doing that.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, and this was basically just a panel where he was talking about some roleplay games he likes that aren't Dungeons and Dragons, and kind of asked the audience to sort of talk about the interesting stuff they've played or would like to play.
Well, it was interesting because before we went into that, because that section of this was in what was the gaming part of the Westin that they had blocked off. They didn't open that until 2, which is fair enough. I guess they were probably setting up the board game library and didn't want people in the way. That's fine. But they did change a couple things. One, they announced, like, before we went in that they weren't allowing food or drink in that back area.
Yep.
Which I'm not a fan of.
Specifically outside food or drink. They
Yeah.
did have a water station in the room, but that was all you were allowed.
Yeah.
And based on a comment I overheard later, I think the reason for that change is last year somebody brought in a bottle of vodka.
I'm not convinced that that's the case, because there's still a bunch of people who I saw throughout the weekend that were having water bottles there and out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also just not sure how much that rule was enforced, given the amount of people I had that have water bottles. It might have been somebody spilled something on something or nothing. I do think there are probably better ways of solving that problem than just allowing no outside food or drink, because for people with disabilities that affect their stomachs like me, it's kind of important to have access to stuff like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But again...
But it was only one area of the con, and Dragor also... Should I say? It's fine. Dragor also pretty much blatantly ignored that, so...
Oh, but he brought his coffee with him because he desperately needed it.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. We all needed caffeine throughout this weekend,
But
like
it's
a
also
lot
worth
of
noting
it.
he wasn't even near anything. Like, all of us were just in a panel room talking. Like, we weren't near any games or anything that was even possible to be destroyed. And I'm sure there were probably some people who were already drunk there at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, but they're kind of beyond help anyway. So,
Wonderfully phrased, my dear, wonderfully phrased. So, this was a fun little panel, good way to start off.
even if it was in the wrong room.
Yes, it really felt like it should have been in an actual panel room rather than a room set up for board gaming, but
Because it was about board gaming, they put it in there, so everyone had to kind of like take chairs from a stack and just arrange them around the room because there weren't enough seats.
no, it was fun. I got to annoy you quite significantly.
Well, yeah, we got to go around the room and talk about systems we'd all played, and I actually really enjoyed that because I could like check off systems in my head that I've already played, and found out about new systems.
Yep.
Which was pretty cool. But we just played Thirsty Sword Lesbians last week. If you've listened to
the Origins 3-parter plus the bonus episode
with special guest Betty LaFlame.
Yep. That was 2 weeks ago.
Whatever. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. What did we do? Oh, yeah, we went to PopCon Indy last week. What is time? Anyway, you took Thirsty Sword Lesbians as your choice. That should have been mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at least vaguely lesbian. You're not.
Yeah, no, but it was funny to deprive you of it. I love you.
You too. Yeah, that part was fun, and then he talked about some game systems he played.
Mm-hmm.
Which were also pretty cool, including some less dice-based systems. And he did talk a little bit about how basically what most systems need to some extent is something to basically be a luck or randomizer mechanic just to kind of, I think, help give the game structure.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just deciding what happens, you're just effectively writing a story.
Yeah.
Some games, I'm honest, I'm kind of fine with.
Oh yeah, I've played games where you are basically just writing a story, and that's absolutely fine.
It just adds, I would say, for more storytelling-based games, a level of improvisation to it.
Yes.
And for combat-based games, it adds like a level of like game complexity to it. Either of which is fine. I tend to be more storytelling focused. I don't know if you could tell that from last 2 episodes. That was fun. And then we stayed in that room and played a game called Inspectors, I think.
Yep.
Insectors, something along the lines of that.
I think it was Inspectors, which is kind of a Ghostbusters themed, again, collaborative storytelling, pseudo RPG. Yeah.
And Driver, I can tell, has a lot of experience GMing. Because this was a larger, I think at one point we had like 15 people in there. People kind of shifted in and out. Gregor accounted for that, and he did a good job of letting everyone kind of play and have their moment.
Yeah.
And the crowd was very game for it, too.
Yeah, we got to tell a very silly story and have fun.
Yeah.
Which is what you're pretty much going for in this situation.
And we also talked about how dangerous duck boats are.
Yeah, fun fact, if you didn't know, those motorized duck boat things, yeah, they've killed like 100 people.
They were originally for the U.S. military, and then they sold them to civilians with no safety regulations whatsoever because they fall in a weird legal loophole where they're not cars and they're not boats, so they don't have to have any regulations whatsoever.
Because our brains are awful, we realized that you could start singing songs about like people horribly dying in tragic drowning accidents to the tune of DuckTales. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So our brains have been doing that all weekend.
The game was a lot of fun. Everyone, I could tell, like the people who are more experienced with RP did a great job of like bringing in other people. It has this mechanic where you can like sit in a chair and give like a detail to another character, which it took people a while to warm up to, but they got the hang of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you roll d6s to like hit a certain number. That part's kind of irrelevant, honestly.
Yeah. Again, it's interesting. His comment was he's planning to modify it to use. I think he said it's fantasy flights dice, where it's like it's still a d6, but it's like success, failure, like complication, and something else. I can't, or advantage, and like just to vary it up a bit rather than just using d6s, which I think is probably a good idea. But no, it was fun. It was a good way to kick off. What was it after that? Because that was like 3 days ago, and I don't remember anything.
I know, that's why I have the schedule up.
Mm-hmm.
And first, you can't have the schedule up if you're driving.
Correct.
So we went there. We did walk past because we had to walk back into the main building. Opening ceremonies had started. We had already written off that as we're not going to that because it tends to be very crowded. Opening ceremonies is fine. but they don't tend to say much. This did have the conclusion that we didn't wind up going into main events pretty much at all weekend.
Yeah, no, there was no pretty much about it. The only time we went through main events was when we were going to the Western.
Yes.
I don't even know what the stage looked like this year.
Which is a shame, because they do decorate the stage, but I'm sure there'll be pictures of it up that you can look at.
Yeah.
So we went to Furry Scrabble, and I will say the names here because these are all fursona names, so they're not like real people's names, so they can have the degree of anonymity they want. So Furry Scrabble was with Randy Ringtail.
Yep.
A portion of the furry community has a real fondness for game shows. I also, as somebody who has a big nostalgia factor to them, also love game shows, and they build a lot of their own, much like Rego does. We've mentioned him on this podcast before. Simulations of them online with their own systems, which is awesome.
So yeah, we did have a few game show panels throughout the weekend.
So Furry Scrabble is apparently actually based on an 80s game show. I've not seen the Scrabble version of it, but it's basically like, it's not that you're actually playing Scrabble. You get like a letter and a word and then like a silly clue about the world, that word that's generally like a pun. There's a lot of class here, and the answer is school.
Yeah.
And then you kind of guess it that particular way.
Yeah.
And you get more and more letters as you go on to get the word, so it makes it a game that's guessable. 2 people played at a time. We got there, I think, a little bit late to that one because the other panel was still finishing up, but watching it was a lot of fun, and the person who was hosting it remembered us from Body Language the year before, which was right there, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was a penguin last year in Body Language.
I mean, that was an intense game of Body Language. It came down to the wire.
It did. I want you a plushie.
Yeah. This year they were giving out gift cards to Amazon, which is probably actually a better prize because we won some later. We'll talk about that in a bit, but like, it was, I think, $10 or $20 for various things that were Amazon gift cards they were handing out, which is cool and probably actually a better prize than plush. But I like winning plush more, so take note of that if anyone's listening to this. If you're doing a game show, give plush as a prizes. And also, if you want to win people's hearts, give prizes to everyone if they come up on stage, because like, it doesn't have to be like a major prize, but as long as you're giving everyone something, it makes it a little bit less intense for people.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I would do if I was running one.
Yeah. Which we may be. If and when we get around to.
And it's cute. There's definitely a bunch of furries that like game shows, and they all talk to each other. I will admit the hosts this weekend got a bit interchangeable for me, just because there were a lot of them. But I enjoyed them. I had fun watching it and cheering people.
Yep.
And you go into a final round where you have to like score versus somebody else and figure out words. It was very fun.
Yeah.
You should be making more comments.
I should, but again, it was a well-run game show. The main issue they were having was just the projector was being a bit uncooperative that day, so the screen was a little washed out, but from what I was told later, dodgy HDMI cable.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
And it's the first day of a con. Like, also shout out to AV. They were working really hard all weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the AV team put in the work this weekend.
Especially when you have people like Alkali who just are loud and you need to change the reverb on their microphones constantly depending on who's using it.
Funniest thing, or one of the funniest things I saw last year at Anthrocon was when he handed his microphone to somebody else. They tried to speak into it and nobody could hear a thing. And it was just like, has it been switched off? And the AV crew was just like, no, it's just yours. It's turned way down. Which was great. But yeah, so this was a very well-executed, well-run panel. Well, we got into it close to half an hour late, and we were still able to get a decent seat, because again, Thursday. But they basically, I think DL406 was basically running game shows all weekend.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time in there.
Yep.
But it's nice that it had a dedicated room for that. And another shout out that I really appreciate what this con does is they do tend to be pretty lax about what they let people do, which means that you can just, for the most part, go in and out of rooms, which I love.
Yeah.
Like, keep that as a system. It's just better for crowd control. And I noticed that did that with some bigger events this year, too, that they didn't last year.
Yes, I did also notice that.
Which I think they realized that that was a fire hazard.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So yeah, after Scrabble?
I'm trying to figure it out, because there's a bit of a gap. And I don't know if we just walked around during that time.
We might have done. I just kind of explored the space and all that jazz. Or did we go to the board game room for a bit?
We might have gone to the board game room for a bit. I do remember us going there, because I think was that the day we played Splendor, or was that later?
I have no idea.
Thanks, honey. This is one of the most intense conventions. I know I've already said that, but it just is. Like, you do spend a lot of time just going around, and kind of seeing what you can see in the hallway and stuff like this. So we might have just wandered the space for a bit.
That sounds fairly plausible.
Let me just double check that really quick. See if you can think of something else to say why you did that. We're very professional.
Oh, we're fantastic. But, yeah, so the thing about wandering the halls just at a furry convention, you were going to see a lot of really cool costumes. And the main problem with furries is that, generally speaking, if you're in a full fursuit, your hearing is impaired and your vision is impaired worse. Which is one of the reasons that I spent most of the weekend very deliberately kind of like guarding your back and like keeping an eye on you specifically to make sure nobody in a fursuit accidentally stepped on your dress. And I'm not saying they would ever do it on purpose, it's just they have very limited vision. There was a lovely moment where we were in a corridor at one point where I and somebody who was basically handling for their friend in a fursuit, basically just kind of exchanged the look and the nod, and then we both immediately started directing you apart from each other.
Yep. There was another moment where, like, we were waiting to, I think, get through one of the crowded hallways to get into somebody, and the handler was talking to you, telling you, like, how long the line was behind them, which is something you would only ever take note of if you were a fursuit handler.
Yeah. They were basically saying, you're going to want, they were basically warning me not to attempt to bring you down there for a good solid 20 seconds, 30 seconds to let the line clear through, because otherwise it was just going to cause a pileup. And again, great, helpful information to have. Very much appreciated that.
So I think the next thing we did wind up doing, because that actually wasn't that long of a break, it was maybe like an hour, so we probably did just go to the board gamer's room and play a board game or something like that, was another panel in the same room, a furry video game named that tune.
Ah, yes.
Which you got called for.
I did. That was a mistake.
By Rolf Fox. I don't know how to pronounce that. I think I did that right.
Yep. So there were various ways to volunteer for these. With some of them, it's just stick your hand up and they'll point at people. This one was doing the old raffle tickets in a jar. You get one ticket each. And the one thing I will say is, invariably, if you go up to them and say, "Hey, can I have 2 tickets, one for me and one for my wife?" they will go, "Sure, here you go." And they're not actually going to check you. It's just taking more than one's a bit of a dick move. Or even if it's like, "Hey, I've got 6 friends up there and they're all in fursuits. Could I get a ticket for each of us?" Again, they're not going to bat an eyelid at that. That's fine.
Yeah. And I will say, video game Name That Tune panels tend to be pretty low scoring because
they
get obscure quickly, and these are all animal-based video games. Some people did really well at one category, like if you happen to play all the Pokemon games or all the Sonic games, then you could rack up a lot of points.
Yep.
The more generalist categories, most people only wound up getting 1 or 2.
Yeah.
The last round was kind of intense.
Yeah, I got a big fat 0.
But you had fun.
I did. And again,
I do like ones that actually, like, I do tend to prefer game show panels that, like, actually have contestants as opposed to just ask the audience to answer.
Yes, I tend to find that it's just more exciting generally, both for the audience and for the and for the panelists.
And I think this one was also giving away gift cards. I don't really remember. We didn't stay till the very end of it because we wanted to get over for MSD3K, but we did stay for a round and a round after us.
Yeah. Yeah, because basically they did. So there were 3 contestants in each round. They did 3 rounds, and then the final was going to be the winner from each of the first 3 rounds up against each other. Since I got my 0 points, I did not feel the need to stay for that last round because again we had to get over for MST3K.
So MST3K is basically what it sounds like.
Yep.
Run by a lot of the con panelists that they get every year. Alkali, Boozy Badger, Dragon was there, a bunch of people were there.
Yep, he was there, various others. And again, it's
a person called Chris, who I think...
Chris the Comedy Bunny?
Chris the Comedy Bunny, yes. I think uses she, her pronouns.
I believe so, but again, I don't honestly know. A bunch of others. So the rules of MST3K are pretty simple. They will put on a movie. Before they tell you what the movie is, you get to nominate extra rules for their drinking game. The way you nominate those is by giving money to them. And
they give the money to charity.
Yes, for the record, all the money for the panels that they run throughout the entire weekend goes to the charity.
Yes.
It's one of those things where Alkali's comment is that you know his goal with any one of these conventions is when they present the total to the charity at the end of the weekend, they want to make them cry.
And they're also very respectful about like asking. They don't make it so you can't like enjoy the panel if you're unable to donate, and they're very respectful of the fact that like people of all different financial situations are attending Furry Con. There's some people who will, and we saw this later, drop like $5,000 like it's nothing, and other people who are like sharing hotel rooms with 6 other people.
Yeah.
And both of those people are valid.
Yeah, like they all deserve to be at that convention,
Yes.
and it's a group of people who understand that all of those people deserve to be at that convention, sharing their love of furries and each other and all of that jazz.
That said, at this point, we've been to enough furry conventions that we know that they're going to ask for money to charity. So for the last couple cons, including this one, we set a budget of $100, which isn't a lot to some, might be a lot to other people. For us, it's what we're comfortable spending on charity.
And this time, I very deliberately got it in smaller denominations.
Yes.
Because the last time we just had some 20s, and that doesn't go a long way in terms of panel participation. Whereas this time, got it in a bunch of 5s, which basically meant I could hand it out in smaller increments over the course of the weekend just for the interactivity and the fun. Like the charity got the same amount of money at the end, but I kind of got more fun out of distributing it that way. And I don't think any of them would have an issue with that.
Yes.
So I chipped in a rule for the game. I chipped in the rule I always do, which is drink anytime somebody dies.
It didn't wind up happening in this film, but it's good to have a characteristic.
Exactly. The film ended up being, Down Periscope?
Down Periscope, which, Alkali, you're a cool person, and I know Dragor suggested this film, and it is a really cool film, but please, for the next con, pick an actual bad movie.
Yeah.
Just because people get way too into actually just watching the film.
Yeah, like this was a perfectly decent, like
comedy. It has a subplot, a romantic subplot that does not need to be there, and it doesn't it hasn't. I don't want to say it hasn't aged well because apparently there's a problem with that saying, whatever. But
no, it was problematic at the time.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit into modern conceptions of womanhood because there's a woman in the military who falls in love with the captain, which already red flag.
Yeah, don't do that.
And then she has a plot about gaining her confidence, which is the only serious plot that's in the film.
Yep.
And it also makes me irrationally angry, because it's a movie about war games, about the fact that billions of my tax dollars go to these bozos playing war games in these weird dick measuring contests.
Yep.
But it was a funny film, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Again, Kelsey Grammer knows how to lead an ensemble, a cast. So even if I don't think it had a single moment that surprised me.
Yep.
It was very cookie cutter. It was very cookie cutter. But it was well executed.
Sometimes I like that, though. I like films where, the good guy, under guys win and are just, good, and they have a good time, and they're, good at their jobs, and, nothing really bad happens.
Yeah.
I like films like that. I think everyone kind of does. They have their place.
Yeah, it's
not the only type of movie you should watch.
Oh, absolutely. It's mostly just, when the underachieving slacker in the Navy who is very clearly trying to get himself kicked out, but doesn't want to actually screw over any of his crewmates, is I'm only here because my dad's an admiral, and there was an admiral in the movie played by Rip Torn. I was like, okay, he's Rip Torn's character's kid.
Yeah, and this might be fun. Legally Blonde is a movie I really enjoy that has those same, tropes. You can tell what's going to happen in the film, at least in a modern day. I don't know if you did when it came out, because I didn't see it then. Obviously, I was too young. But it follows all those same beats, but it's such fun to just kind of watch and have those beats follow and be a comfort food.
Oh, that's fair.
And I think this was that kind of comfort food for probably Alkali and Dragor, which is fine. They had fun. It was a movie they enjoyed. Just next time, please pick a bad film, because I want to make fun of a movie, and I haven't had to do that in the last 2 MS3Ks, because they were actually fairly good films.
Yep. Yeah, bring back things on the quality level of Willy's Wonderland. That was just... We still talk about how bizarre the decisions everybody in that movie makes are.
Yep.
Especially Nicolas Cage.
We created a weird follow-up movie about Ghost Ship just having to be a daycare service because he can't turn kids that are ghosts.
Anyway, so yeah, that was Thursday.
Yep, that was Thursday. We stayed till about midnight.
Yep. We then got checked into our Airbnb.
So it's worth emphasizing. Okay, look, we're definitely at the place in our lives where I think we can go all night if we gear ourselves up for it. But at this point, we were tired. For me, I think the big thing with this particular convention was just making sure we could get through registration without it being a disaster, which thankfully it wasn't. It was very smooth, so that was awesome. And for you, I think it was just because I know you do worry a little bit about me and my disability, and you do a good job like protecting and taking care of me. But this is a situation where you have to be on kind of higher alert than you normally are.
This is an intense con for me just from that standpoint, because like there are a number of things. Like, it didn't help that last year was doubly emotionally stressful because your dress got ripped.
Yep.
Fortunately, we know a good tailor, who managed to repair it to the point where when I picked it up, and neither of us could remember which part she repaired. Mm-hmm. We can't find it. So, good job.
And it was last year, I think, Anthrocon is just intense.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of people in fursuits. Everywhere is crowded. Convention rooms and panels tend to be pretty good safe havens, so I like them a bit. But anytime you're out in a hallway, it is just complete madness.
Yeah.
So I think we were kind of cranky with each other.
We were a little.
Like, not in a deep or problematic way. We both just kind of wanted to go to bed, and we're, I think, just annoyed with each other about stupid stuff because of that.
Yeah. And getting checked into that Airbnb was a bit of a pain just because of where it was, and like the check-in instructions weren't the most clear thing, and it had like 20 security cameras around it, so including the... Here's the thing, that Airbnb felt like it hadn't been updated since the 90s, apart from the security system.
Yeah, the security system was entirely new. It also only had kind of sort of air conditioning. I'm glad it was a slightly cooler weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, like the bedroom had it, but the rest of the place didn't.
It was also up like 20,000 stairs.
That's an exaggeration. It was not that many stairs.
I think the audience can tell that 20,000 stairs is an exaggeration, honey.
Probably, but yeah.
It was very confusing. It was late. We wound up going because there were like 6 different lots and apartments on this complex.
But yeah, we figured it out eventually, but it took longer than we would have liked, and then we basically just kind of collapsed. It didn't help that I was running on less than 3 hours sleep than the night before for various unrelated reasons.
We're not going to talk about that in this podcast. It's nothing dangerous. Just, a bunch of stuff's been happening this week.
Yeah. Bunch of work stuff is the best way to phrase it. So.
Also, they have one of those lame-ass things where they don't take the, outside plastic off the mattress, which drives me nuts. Other than that, it was, fine, serviceable, and it was cheap.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes, what?
Yeah, it was about 10 minutes away. Sorry, I was thinking about the dog bowls.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. Because I did check if this Airbnb allowed pets. We probably wouldn't have brought Emma, our dog, to this con.
Nope.
But I just thought it was weird that it had pet balls, because I didn't remember seeing that it allowed pets. And the House Rules states that it didn't allow pets. But it had 2 dog bowls and, dog treats and stuff like that. And I'm like, is this because we were at a furry convention? Is that why they did that? Do they not understand what this is?
I mean, we didn't tell them we were going to Anthrocon.
No, and it is a fairly big convention in the city. I assume a lot of people do know about it. But it's also 4th of July weekend. There's a lot of other conceivable reasons we could have been in town. Yeah. See, I have no idea what that's about. We did take some dog treats from it, though.
Yeah.
Because they had just, a thing of dog treats that you could have. It was very weird. Even they don't allow dogs.
Yeah, I'm very confused by that. That it does make me wonder if, that person owns a bunch of Airbnbs and some of them allow dogs and some of them don't, and they didn't bother updating their rules.
I don't know. It's fine. We didn't want to bring him into this con anyway.
Yeah.
So our goal generally for most mornings was to get to the con before 10 a.m. just to make sure we could get parking.
Yes.
Because this is a con that goes late. We tend to not go late, so getting there early makes sense.
Love the fact that after midnight does not count as late at this con.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got up the next morning. We had not had time to actually get me food the previous night because, again, there was a honking big line at the only fast food place that we kind of drove past. So, and again, both of us were just at the point where I could not be bothered to deal with it. So, grabbed Taco Bell on the way to the convention center the next morning. So this was 4th of July morning at 9 a.m., by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, grab food, go in, eat that, and then what did we start with on Friday? Oh, do we want to talk costumes on Friday?
Yeah, so for Friday, I decided to dress con theme just because I thought it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my first, like, I typically don't do Disney princess costumes. Just I don't want to say they're basic. It's just like I like something a bit more unique than that. But I knew because this was a furry convention, there weren't going to be likely as many people wearing princess costumes. So I did Ariel. You did a very lazy version of Eric.
Yep, it was a bunch of stuff I already owned plus a red cummerbund.
Yep. I had a green ruffle dress and new red hair. It's the same kind of style that I tend to like. That lasts 2 seconds before the curls fall off, but it's fun. And we both got a lot of compliments that day.
Yeah, we did.
Took a lot of pictures. Both from people who just thought it was pretty, people who got it was Ariel. And it was fun to also be like on stage, which happened a few times that day as Ariel.
Yeah.
So the first thing we went to was, let me find it.
Interesting panel name.
That's not funny.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. A Queerer Furry History with RK. Which I really like. This was incredibly well researched.
Yeah. This was somebody who's put in their work, but dug up all kinds of historical stuff relating to furry fandom in general, and more specifically as the panel topic says, the queer history of it. Because again, like you and I have pointed out that like the furry community does have a very high percentage of people who are not straight white men. Though it was interesting that he was coming to the fact like early furry is much more heterosexual coded. Like there's a lot of like sexy female animals, think your kind of Lola Bunny types. And then the further on you go, the more like openly queer it becomes.
What is something for which I don't know the like politics of furries to what extent? Because I know that they had a problem with the alt-right for a bit.
They did have the Nazi furry problem for a bit.
I assume any community at this point just has a Nazi problem because
Nazis
they're kind of prevalent.
Yeah.
So I don't really know the extent to which, because furry cons I also notice tend to just kind of, at least the panels we go to, be fairly apolitical. Like, obviously they're gay and trans rights approved.
Yeah.
But they don't really talk a lot about politics, probably because it's a form of escapism for most people.
Which is very, very fair.
But this was, again, fun and well-researched. It was designed to go 2 hours. They said, I don't want to assume the pronouns. I think they're he, him, though.
Think so, but I'm not 100% confident of that. So.
Up there that he's given it in 3 hours or more. And again, it was extremely interesting. It's hard, as I was finding more and more this weekend, for 2-hour panels to hold my attention for the entire 2 hours. They're a little bit long for me, particularly at a con that's this long and this intense, but we couldn't stay for all of this because we wanted to get over to another event that we really liked. I kind of wanted to stay, though. Like, it was really good and really interesting.
Yeah.
I also liked he asked somebody to come up to read quotes for him, and he specifically asked for somebody who didn't identify as a cis white man.
Yep.
So, to get more representation on the panel, which is awesome.
Respect that choice.
And somebody who came up, it was their first FurryCon and their first panel, so go that person.
Yeah. You're brave.
Yeah. Go you. It was very interesting to kind of think about. We only got, I think, through the early 2000s, but I know furs do like a lot about documenting their history, and I do want to check out RK's, and if you're interested in checking out RK's videos, it's ARRKAY. And they have a YouTube channel that I think goes over a lot of the stuff. I probably will wind up watching that probably tonight, because I'm very interested in it.
So we did have to tap out of that at the hour mark, not because it wasn't good, but because we had something else we wanted to get to. And I'm going to be honest, when we sat down at the panel, we didn't actually check close enough. We thought it was only an hour panel.
Yeah. It does say when you click on the description how long it is, but the Sketch app that Anthrocon uses and a lot of cons use, I do like because it puts events in a chronological order, but it doesn't, you have to click on each individual event to see how long it is.
Yeah.
So we went to Open Mic and Comedy Basics with Alkali Bismuth. This is basically a stand-up panel.
Yeah. But more importantly, it's a panel where the audience gets to do the stand-up.
Yes, which I kind of love. Alkali really endorses the idea that anyone can be funny, and that's true. Anyone can be funny. Not everyone can or wants to be a stand-up comedian as their full-time job, but everyone, I think, has the ability to be funny in them, and it's great to let that ability shine.
Yeah.
And the rule for open mic's pretty basic. You draw your name effectively out of a hat, or Alkali's hat.
Yep.
You go up, have a set that's 5 minutes long in this case. Some people do less than that. And for some people, that's them literally going up on stage and saying a pun, but that's what they feel comfortable doing, and they're so supportive.
Yeah.
So Alkali was doing this Chris the
Comedy Bunny.
Comedy Bunny. I always forget what her persona is. Was joining him, and they do critique, but in like light and easy ways.
Yeah, like it is mostly just friendly, sort of, like, you did great, like maybe punch up this bit, like,
Yeah.
It's basically the nicest feedback you're going to get.
And he's incredibly supportive of people who are clearly nervous or kind of pause when they're doing a bit or something like that.
Yeah.
Where both he and Chris are like, hey, you got up on stage, that's a really hard first thing. Nakalai's pretty open about the fact that he has social anxiety, and doing this for him is a very hard cognitive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very supportive of wanting to get others to be able to do it too.
Yeah.
And like seeing how happy he is when people come up and just kind of nail it is great.
And yeah, the other thing to note about this is just, even if you fluff it, the audience is going to be very, very respectful.
The furry community is very perspective. The first person who I think went up just kind of grabbed a card because their friend was there. They didn't even really want to do it. I think they told one joke, and the audience gave them an amazing la parade.
Yeah.
And that's not me calling them out. Honestly, if you just came in this panel with nothing prepared and were the first person called, I'm amazed you did that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's very, very brave of you. Because again, random draw.
Yeah. We both wound up going.
Yep.
I really wanted to do this last year and didn't get picked. Not because of any maliciousness, just because there's a lot of people in the room who wanted to do it. The crowd was slightly smaller this year for whatever reason. So more people, I think, wound up getting to go. There were a couple people who didn't, and I felt kind of bad for them. But other than that, everyone wound up getting to go, which is pretty cool.
And you did great.
I hope so.
I mean, Alkali had the, oh God, we're going there look at his face after your opening line.
Did my jokes land? Really? Again, it was kind of a blur.
Oh, they did.
Good. And I was one of the early acts, so I did warm-up, and then the persons after me set also went really well, which meant I did good setup, which I felt really great about that.
Yep.
You went a little bit later in the set. You did a really good job, too.
Thank you.
Got some laughs.
Yep. Well, again, I opened with a joke about being English on the 4th of July. Like, it was the easiest, layup to start with, and then, I just told a funny story from the UK. So.
It also is important to note, we do have more experienced public speaking than probably the average person at a FurCon. I'm in front of a room 3 times a week.
Yep, I am a qualified teacher.
We're more used to being on what's effectively a stage. Now, we're still learning stuff like the art of comedy, and we're nowhere near as good as somebody like Alkali, but we are comfortable being on stage.
Yep.
So that does help us get over a lot of barriers that other people would have.
Yeah.
Even though the first day of class, you've seen me, I'm always like a bundle of nerves when class starts.
You are. Which is, kind of adorable in its own way.
So we did have stuff that was scheduled opposite to each other a lot during this time period, because some of the panelists we not like Boozy, Iggy, and Alkali had stuff that were just back to back, and we couldn't be in 2 places at once.
Yeah.
So we chose to do this over one game show panel that Iggy was doing, then we switched and didn't do Boozy's Legal Funhouse, which is another panel we knew we liked because we wanted to go to Password Plus that was run by Iggy.
Yeah.
And this was just to, kind of split the time between people we knew we liked.
Yep.
Password Plus, another game show panel run by Iggy, who does a lot of great game show panels.
He does.
And Iggy also calls contestants, but he does a really good job of making sure that everyone from the audience gets a turn to participate.
Yeah. Again, standard rule is basically, you can volunteer once. If it reaches the point where, there's nobody left in the room who has not yet been up who wants to, then you might get called a second time. Doesn't happen that often, but it, potentially can. And if he's called you once throughout the weekend, you're unlikely to get called again, unless there's nobody else who wants to, which is fine. Because again, he wants to see as many different people as possible, up there.
And for his game show panels, he does, for Password Plus, and I think Pyramid that follows, he does get quote-unquote celebrities, because these games are quote-unquote played with panelists, because they're cooperative games. And I think this is by design, both in the original game show and with Iggy, just to make sure there's somebody up here who understands the rules and knows what they're doing. So if somebody's a little bit more awkward or a little bit more shy, you for sure have somebody there who can help them out.
Yeah.
Which I do think is a smart idea.
Yeah, I think it works. Again, I think they did definitely run into some scheduling issues this weekend, because there was definitely some cases where they'd intended to have somebody with them to assist who couldn't be there for whatever reason, usually because they were in a They had a schedule conflict with the panel they were doing.
Yeah, sometimes panels were scheduled at the same time and people didn't notice. I will say to this group of panels, if you want somebody to just free a event plan for you, look through schedules, find conflicts, and like figure stuff out, I will do that because I'm good at that. Just to make it easier for you so you're not noticing the weekend of. Because this was, I think, the start of the point this weekend where we were telling this group of panelists where they were supposed to go because we knew and they did not.
Yep, because we had actually read the timetable.
So, yeah.
We're just like, where's that panel next?
It's here.
It's here.
What time's that panel? I think it's at 4. It's actually at 8.
Okay.
That happened a few times.
Yep.
We weren't trying to be obnoxious. We were just trying to make sure their information got out there correctly. So yeah, we stayed in there for Super Password Plus and Iggy's Pyramid, both of which are fun game shows. They're like clue-based, and you get lists and stuff like that. They're like the game show. They're a lot of fun. He does a great job with very unique concepts in games, particularly with Pyramid and stuff like that. Iggy.
He really likes tying things to the con thing.
Yeah, which he does a great job of.
With a lot of people who do game show panels at conventions, they will just go relatively general. So if it's an anime con, you'll get a lot of anime questions, that kind of thing. Whereas Iggy really likes theming the stuff around the convention theme if he can.
Yeah, that was awesome. Then we went to Iggy's Improv Expo, which was improv that I think was supposed to be long-form improv games with people. Something happened in main events. I'm still not clear exactly what.
So, yeah, there was some kind of delay with something that was going on in main events, so a bunch of people who were supposed to be on Iggy's improv panel just weren't there.
So there was Alkali and Boozy's comedy hour, which was supposed to end at, in theory, 5:30. And then they were supposed to immediately jump into Iggy's Improv Expo at 5:30, which is already a tight timeline.
Yes.
Getting out of main events itself is going to take about 15 minutes. Yeah. They might have stayed for Uncle Kage's story hour, just because Uncle Kage sometimes uses them as like part of his story hour routine, so that could have been part of it. Mm-hmm. I don't really know.
Just to make you aware, I'm probably going to pull over at the next petrol station.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, Iggy was talking about us for, I think, alternative plans before that started. I couldn't tell if he wanted us to just volunteer to join. I was recommending, I think, audience participation stuff, which I think is what it wound up being. Since they wound up getting, I think, was it Dragor? I don't think it was Dragor.
It wasn't Dragor. It was
Fur, I think is his name.
Yeah, it was Fur.
Firr.
Yep.
And Chris, the Comedy Bunny, got it right this time.
Haha.
And one other person, I think. Name I don't remember. Or was it? I think it was just the two of them.
Maybe. Again, my memory for Friday is already pretty hazy.
This is why we do this.
Exactly.
But it was an extra chance to play improv games and some more unique ones. We'll talk about this later, but Alkali also does an audience participation improv, which I do like. But some of the more like generic games, like Scenes from a Hat or World's Worst, I kind of want something a little bit spicier than that. Not spicier like in a sex manner, just spicier in terms of like a little bit more game complexity to my improv lately. Yeah.
And again, Iggy's Improv Hour was a good opportunity for that.
Yeah. So I wound up, I think, doing a game where I had to speak in cliches because it was a party guest game, which was very fun.
Yeah, it was party quirks. Your quirk was you spoke in nothing but cliches.
Yeah, it was fun. And the audience members in that game were great.
They were.
There's an interrupt game where two teenagers were playing a story game. I think you had the motto for that game, right?
Oh, yeah. The motto was great.
Yeah, it gave you a laugh for that, where you had to work in why American independence was bad. This was on the 4th of July.
Yeah. What else was I going to do? I think I bet, because the way that one works is that just somebody in the audience picks a motto early on but doesn't tell any of the people. So they get like 2/3 of the way through the story, and then the person in the audience, when they're called upon, tells them what the motto was, and they have to suddenly work it in.
Yeah. And those were two kids that were up there playing. They did a great job having fun. The people who had more experience were doing a great job working them in. It was very cute. So, did you want to play a game? I don't remember.
I did go up for Family Portrait.
Oh yeah, Family Portrait, which is a game where you like pose on stage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked that a lot. It was actually, I liked both the participation improv we did later with Alkali too. I will say I probably like this one a little bit more. Not a criticism, it was just smaller, more intimate, which wasn't the fault of either of the two hosts, but because it was a little bit more intimate, we could get a little bit more experimental, and there was a little bit less crowd control that anyone had to do, and I actually really liked that as an experience.
That's fair.
the other one was also great. I want to emphasize, and Alkaline does a great job of working with bigger crowds. It's just this was a little bit more fun for me to just be able to do games in kind of a lower stakes, lower intimacy, or like. And I'm not talking about sex when I say the word intimacy. I just mean that like there were less people. Environment. Like I like this a lot, and I also like that Iggy does a lot of very experiments and stuff with his improv.
He does. Now, like again, he plays some improv games you don't see as often, which is kind of nice. Makes it a bit different.
And it was a good compromise from the fact that I think Boozy and Alkali were supposed to be there, couldn't be for whatever reason. Again, if you want somebody to event plan your schedule, I will do that to you. I will also check boxes for you that definitely exist on panel forms that you can put in to say if you want a plus 18 panel, because those exist. I can tell you those exist. You just forgot to click it. What?
So,
to be clear, I'm not talking about this panel. I'm talking about a panel that happened later.
Yeah.
Iggy's panel was not plus 18. There were kids in the room. There was nothing that was inappropriate for those kids.
Yeah.
We also got to find out about Fur's weird car wash experience. Right?
Yeah.
Fur just sounds like the most. How does. I don't know how this person actually exists and is not just a trope of a human being that you make up for a sitcom.
Yeah. This is somebody who apparently won a free car wash and then proceeded to go and get his car, or won free car washes for a year and decided the appropriate thing to do was get his car washed every day for a year. And then found out that a new car wash place was opening right down this, near to him. And if you went on the first day, you had a 1 in 20 chance of winning free car washes for a year. And his response was to get his car washed 18 times on that first day until he won that. So, yes.
Yeah. So after that, we did Furry Jury, which is an interesting and very unique panel.
Yeah, I think they only do it here, largely because I think it's one of the few conventions that Boozy and Good Boy are at.
Keep in mind, these are again persona names. Do you want to explain it?
So the basic principle of this is they set up the ballroom and the Allegheny Ballroom, which is the ballroom in the Western, as a quote-unquote courtroom. So, 2 tables on the thing and a frankly slightly dangerous-looking pile of chairs. And then they try a fake case that is in some way related to Furry.
Yep.
In this case, it was a negligence case, whereat a previous year's Furcon or FuzzyCon, which is basically a fake convention. It's just Anthrocon. Somebody had died, and it was basically a case of to what extent was the con liable, and a bunch of other stuff, and the 2 lawyers up there are actual lawyers who know what they're talking about. All of the various witnesses are their friends who are playing roles, but
there's a script. There's a lot of deviations from the script. Also, no one reads the script in advance, and it's not even highlighted right. So
the script got finished 2 hours before the panel, based on what they were saying. So yeah,
it was also particularly spicy this year because it was about Cousin Kage, who's a very clear parody of Uncle Kage.
Cousin Kage was there last year. I think they always do that bit.
Yeah. Well, this time it was about him being on trial, though, effectively.
I think it was last year as well.
No, it wasn't. It was some weird thing about somebody dying. It wasn't related to something that anyone could have actually have done. Because that was an actual murder case that would not have happened.
Well, this one was just a
Okay, we might need to pause.
Yeah, we'll need to pause because we're pulling into a petrol station because, the little orange fuel symbol light is on. So, I am going to stop the car
and
the
thing right
pause
at
the
least,
recording.
so that's cool.
So, yeah. So, we will be back momentarily.
Hi.
And we have petrol.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out how to continue recording this because we're 24 minutes from home.
Yeah. And this episode is... We have more stuff to talk about, so,
We could, condense this and just be, a normal review podcast where we just talk about stuff generally as opposed to dissecting it in excruciating detail.
Excruciating detail is our thing.
Fine. Most people like it when we talk about them, so... that's half of who listens to us are people who are just waiting for us to talk about them.
Yep. So... so that was Friday.
We didn't finish the review.
I know we didn't finish Friday yet. Where were we up to?
We were up to the late night Boozy Badger.
Ah.
So, or not that one, the legal.
The
Frick is it called?
Furry Jury.
Furry Jury, thank you. There's a lot of very similar sounding panels that Boozy does.
Yeah. And again, as Boozy points out, the way that this legal case is decided is the way all legal cases in America are decided. It's who can pay the most. So basically, the two sides make their argument, and then the audience votes with their wallets. And again, all money going to the charity.
This year, he did make it about an actual liability issue that the con is worried about.
No, it's an actual liability issue that he told the con not to touch with a barge pole, which is basically, apparently, a couple of years ago, they were briefly considering, so people go down to the waterfront and party, and the con briefly considered making that an official, con event, and he basically said no.
So for reference, there's a pathway to the waterfront in between the two sides of the convention center where people were lining up. You can walk down that and get to the waterfront quite easily.
Yeah.
So people hang out there. They're allowed to. It's public space.
Yeah. But he basically said the second you make that an official thing that Anthrocon endorses, you become liable for anything that happens down there. And the legal case was basically a worst case scenario. What if they hadn't listened to him? And I think he was smug about that fact.
A little bit. I think it's also that Uncle Kage does kind of have a tendency to not listen to people's advice half the time.
Yep. So I do think they like poking him a bit.
Yeah.
Right down to the Photoshop of the poster that just reads, remember you signed a death waiver with Uncle Kage's face on it.
Sorry, I still have duck boat stuff stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. But again, this panel is
also
very unique.
Hold on, briefly. If you do happen to know anyone who has died on a duck boat, I apologize for making fun of it. It's only been like 100 people, but there's also only 100 duck boats. Like per duck boat, at least one person dies. That's not a great track record.
What we're saying is, for the love of God, don't rent a duck boat.
Basically. I assume that, after the first death, they take the duck boat out of commission, so that duck boat doesn't exist anymore. And obviously, most of them have had more than one injury per duck boat. So it's not as though every single duck boat has had an accident, but they're all built the same.
Again, duck boat? Ooh, woo, woo. Oh, God. Are you
My sense of
drunk
humor
now?
is brilliant. So, my sense of humor has broken members of that con multiple times. So,
yeah, that's true. You did get referred to as a smartass today.
I was referred to as a crazy cow or a chaos monster, I think, last time.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, this was fun. I will admit, 2 hours. It was a long day. This was just pushing my span of being able to pay attention, which wasn't anything wrong with the panel. It was funny. By the end, I'm like, okay, I need this to be wrapped up. It also started 15 minutes late. They maintained they finished on time. They did not finish on time.
They finished 15. Here's the thing. The panel ran for the exact amount of time it was planned to run. It just started 15 minutes late.
Yep.
And I don't know if that was just a miscommunication over scheduling or...
I think that was mostly just the person who was in there before, Pepper Coyote, is a very good musician in the furry community. He's quite popular. And both their setup and teardown took a while, and then people wanted autographs from them, which they eventually did move out into the hallway, but I think it took a while to wrangle people.
Yeah. Plus, Pepper was actually one of the people playing one of the
yeah, so they had to run back in and get a script, basically.
Again, it was chaotic, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm glad Alkali did not sit on that stack of 5 chairs for very long.
Well, it does make me want to try to write a script like that in an hour, because that's a thing I do.
Yeah. That is... You could do that.
I could.
Again, I'm going to be honest, the skill in putting on a panel like that isn't in the writing of the script, it's in the being able to wrangle the 10 people necessary to do it.
And get them to understand the script well enough to do it. Stuff kind of goes off the rails. It's extremely funny. It's a very unique event. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. Based on comments, I think this is the only place it gets done.
Yeah. After that was, I think, the Anthrocon Tonight Show, which Boozy was the host of. We didn't stay for that because we were tired.
Yeah.
And we're old. ish.
We're not that
We're
old.
younger than all the people on that panel who were forced to stay up at that time and perform constantly throughout the weekend.
Exactly. But our livers are definitely in better shape than theirs.
Kidneys. Is that too dark?
That might have been a little dark, but it's fine.
Iggy would laugh at that.
He would. I hope. He might actually listen to this episode. Sorry. But, yes.
Yeah, that was Friday. We got back. This was 4th of July. So we did actually, after that...
Also failed to get food that night because...
Okay, so a couple stuff happened before that. So first, I wanted to do something experimental. I recommended we go to a floor of the West End just to kind of see what it was like. Because when we were at Colossal Con earlier, which was also a big con, a lot of people decorated their doors.
Mm-hmm.
So I mostly wanted to go up to see if anyone was decorating their doors.
Yep.
So a couple door signs. We saw a couple of the con staff getting ready. And I learned about the massive elevator problems in the West End.
Yep. So the West End is a pretty big hotel. It's something like 25-ish floors.
Yep.
And
all of it's rented out by this con, I assume. I would not want to be the one, like, normal person who is there that weekend somehow because you booked, like, a trip to see your grandkids 4 years in advance and this wasn't set in for a date for this yet. But yeah, I assume it's all that, and because of that, the elevators in it, because people are going up and down constantly, are in just high demand and high stress, and I think it can take something like 15 minutes to get an elevator.
Yep. Again, especially, yep. If you're somebody who cannot climb stairs because you're in a fursuit or something like that, or you're just on the 25th floor, yeah.
So they have a rule in place where they're asking you not to go up from any floors but the lobby, basically. Like, climb down the stairs and then take the floor up to the lobby. I assume exceptions would obviously be made for a person who was unable to take the stairs.
Yes. Again, I think it was a case of if you needed to go up from any of the, like, you know, if you were on 6 and wanted to get to 12, I think they were basically saying, take a lift down to the lobby, get out, get on one that's going up. You know, just to try and ease the overcrowding somewhat. I don't know how much that helped. I'm not sure if that truck should be leaning over quite that much.
It was interesting because as Airbnb goers, we don't tend to experience this. We also don't experience the, like, scrum of when they open the hotel block for big cons of trying to get into the hotel block you want. With Airbnbs, I actually find even with cons of this size or bigger that take up a lot of areas, it's fairly easy to find a reasonable one if you book a reasonable amount of time out. And also keep in mind with Airbnbs or Vrbo, which is one we wound up going with this time, because people can just add new stuff to the system at any time, or some people don't open bookings till like 3 months out, you can actually just get stuff later. So yeah. I do recommend that as an option if you're unable to get a hotel or need a cheaper option. You do have to have a car or some ability to get back and forth. But if you have that, it tends to work pretty well.
Yeah. Again, they're scummy companies, but what company isn't?
Yeah, I don't recommend Airbnb landlords at all. But if you need an option and it's an option that's going to fit with your, like, that's why we do it. It's not because I think Airbnb is a good company. It's just because it practically works with my particular needs.
Yep.
So after that, we went up to the rooftop to kind of watch the fireworks for a bit.
We did. Most of the firework display kind of was over by that point.
What was still kind of sort of happening, it was just in different angles. There was a boat parade that was happening.
Bridge was lit up.
Yep. In American colors.
I still don't know why you think that's funny to me. Like, you seem to be under the impression I would not realize that the bridge was lit up red, white, and blue.
No, it wasn't that. I was mostly just, I wasn't sure that you were, because I kept saying it, and because it was loud, you couldn't, I was unclear if you heard me, so I kept saying it over and over again, and then you didn't, like, acknowledge it with, like, yes, I see that, or anything like that, so I just kept pointing at it.
Gotcha.
Thank you for, like, having our audience know about that awkward social interaction.
It was great.
We did meet some of our fans up there, though. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not happened to us before. That was weird.
Somehow at a 20,000 person con, the people from Anthro, Ohio, who listened to this podcast said hi to us and talked to us about the podcast. That was amazing.
That was very nice. Thank you.
Like, thank you so much. It was really great to talk to you. They also did the asexual, like, workshop panel we talked about in Anthro, Ohio, which I hope they do again next year. It was a really good panel.
It was a good panel.
And they said that they were actually taking into some of our feedback about this podcast into account for planning next year's Anthro Ohio, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated to see what changes as a result of what we said.
Yeah, and if it's worse because of us, it'll be our fault.
Yay!
That'll be great.
But again, like, we do want to clarify. Everything we say on this podcast, with very, very rare exceptions, is said with love. Like,
yes.
There is a reason why we spend our weekends going to lots and lots of conventions. It is because we love going to conventions, and we love the energy and the passion and everything that's put in by people. And when we're saying we would do X thing this way or Y thing that way, we're also not actually planning a convention. Like,
yeah. There might be a reason why you can't do it that way. We
Yep.
get that. We also have no idea what your budget is, which is a big factor. And also, like, I do recognize that we care about, like, particular things probably more than most people. Like, for me as a person who can't wait in lines, I really love cons that just let you walk into rooms. Like, that's a godsend for me.
Yep.
Whereas for other people, they might not care as much about that.
Yep. Some people generally don't mind if they stood out in the corridor for 20 minutes because it's just a chance to chat with their friends.
Speaking of which, let's have a brief rule, particularly at larger cons, about where you should talk with your friends.
Oh, God.
To the side of a hallway is fine. In the middle of a corridor that is clearly a massive throughway is not. In the middle of a vendor's aisle is not.
Do you want to talk about the vendor's hall?
We'll talk about that on Saturday because that's when we actually went into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't go into the vendor's hall for a massively long amount of time because, one, it's extremely crowded. We're not really big vendor's hall people. There wasn't anything we were really looking to buy. As you would expect for a con to have a good plush game, which we'll talk about, but we just kind of avoided it, I think, until we didn't really have anything else to do.
Yeah. Which, again, not a knock on the vendor's hall itself, but it's always really popular.
Yeah. But those people I want to emphasize that we were talking to on the roof didn't do that. It's just such a needle in a haystack moment to have met them. We met a lot of good people. Also, I forgot to mention a couple people were interacting with some of the plush that I was carrying around. So on Thursday, I was carrying around a little raccoon plush that played D&D because I went with the skunk and we were going to like an RPG panel. And somebody who was one of the puppeteers for the con, I think, had a raccoon puppet, and my raccoon and their raccoon like played together for a couple minutes.
Yep, they made raccoon friendship.
They made raccoon friendship.
Yeah, various other bits and bobs.
Yep. It's better than the bats later that were like attracted to each other.
Yeah, they have magnets in their wings.
I was gonna build that up as like a moment of suspense for the audience.
Nah, it's fine. It was funnier that way.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
So after that, we said hi to them briefly. We didn't stay on the rooftop long. I am glad we went up just to kind of see them and hang out. Also, the person who we were talking to was a fursuiter, had a monarch fursuit, which was probably my favorite fursuit of the weekend, of just a butterfly hybrid type fursuit. I didn't wind up getting a picture of them just because it's hard to find them at a 20,000 person convention, but hopefully they'll be at another con soon and get a picture.
Yeah.
I only know because they showed me a photo on their phone, but they were obviously having it on midnight on a roof, which is probably smart.
Yeah.
So we got there pretty early on Saturday morning. Also, when we were driving back the previous night, as Richard was saying, it was just, outside was nuts.
Yep.
It was 4th of July. There were a bunch of furries around the convention center. There were just a bunch of people watching 4th of July fireworks when you got like more than a mile out from the convention center.
Yeah, there were people heading home from watching 4th of July fireworks. Yeah, traffic was a bit of a pain in the neck. But we made it back to the Airbnb. I did not get food that night. So yeah, my food schedule over this weekend has been bad.
Bad.
Just bad. Bad deal. All right.
Yeah. How close are we to home?
Like 5 miles.
We already passed the mile marker for 77.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. And we just got an ice cream instead of pizza.
I mean, we can potentially just stop it down and get ice cream and keep talking while we eat it.
I don't know if that, I don't want to do that on a microphone.
Fair.
I don't want to torture our listeners with that either.
That's also valid.
We could just, record at home.
That just feels weird.
Yeah, it does. It's fine. We'll drive and be dumb about this. So yeah, if you're watching this episode, this is the first time where we've just continued driving to record it.
Yay. We're
This is not a
idiots.
smart decision.
Yeah, it's not like I've got important stuff to write tonight. It's fine.
Do you want to just go home? We can.
No, I want to finish recording.
Fine.
Yeah, we'll figure out what we're doing after that. So, that was Friday.
Friday. That song is probably copyrighted.
I mean, you didn't sing enough of it for it to count.
I know.
So, we got up on Saturday morning, and again, got there for 10 a.m. And this was another day when they had part of that undercover area sealed off. And because Saturday was the day that they also had the block party.
Yes. Which is basically an outside party where fursuiters and like people call them normies can like interact with each other because the block party is open to the public. Anyone can go. It's outside. It has some food trucks and stuff like that.
Yep.
It was cooler this year than last year, which I think everyone was happy about.
Yep. There was also an outdoor headless space setup, which was basically a series of sort of like trailer truck kind of things with what I'm assuming was some pretty powerful AC setup inside it, so that if you needed to go in and hydrate and cool off, you could.
Yeah.
Good decision, whoever made that.
We did not wind up going to the block party because I was in a giant monarch dress.
Yep.
Because our joint couple's costume for the day was the English monarchy. I was the monarch. You were the English.
Mm-hmm.
You hate this joke.
Yeah, I really do. So again, I was not in a costume that day.
Our general rule is any dress that has a train, which the monarch one does, a couple other ones I have do. If a dress has a train, especially if a dress has a train at any con where fursuiter is going to be, which is most cons, he is on handler duty.
Yeah.
Like your normal costumes are fine; they're probably not going to distract, but you just need to be on full handler duty at that time. Like,
plus, we haven't actually come up with a concept that goes along with that monarch dress.
Yeah. I think we do now. The English monarch. You don't even have to dress up. It's great.
You can't hear it, but I'm rolling my eyes at that joke.
I'll just buy you like a British suit or something like that. They make them like British brags, but on them. It'll be great. You'll look so obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. And you put English Edgelord on my badge this weekend.
I have a list of alliterative titles I'm going to give you.
Of course, you can come up with a bunch.
Yeah. I also just thought of random weird jokes. I also have to work with character limits, though. It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a new costume. Did have sleeves, but it was actually fairly breathable. They do keep the inside of the convention center cool because fursuiters.
Yep.
It's also worth noting, because I don't think we mentioned, they did have a headless lounge in both the convention center and the Westin this year, which I think is new. I didn't see that last year.
Yes, because the space that was the Westin headless lounge was just open tables last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was probably a good decision because if you're in need of a headless lounge, you probably don't want to have to traipse over to a different thing and go up some stairs and maybe a lift and no. Having one set up in the Westin was again a good call. Don't know who made it, but whoever did, good decision.
Yeah, because of that, I didn't really want to go outside, and I also just particularly in costumes, I just tend to like to be indoors generally. Heats a lot. It's hard on my makeup. I just didn't want to do it. So, but the costume was a hit. So.
Yep. Yeah, people like the monarch dress. You all right?
Yeah. I just didn't know where we were going after that because you didn't have a beat that was following it.
No, that's fair. Yeah, mostly we're driving past the actual exit we should be taking.
Do you want to turn on the exit? We can. Okay. Are you sure?
Yes. Again, I want to get this done.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Also, again, because this is apparently an issue, if you have any recommendations for food Richard can eat at cons that aren't con food, please just email us or just tell us in person because we know half of you. So, Iggy's Games for Guinea Pigs was the first thing we did on Saturday.
Yep. So, this is another game show panel. This is a game show that Iggy has created himself.
It's very crazy and very Iggy and very fun.
Yeah, using definite inspiration drawn from a bunch of existing game show formats, kind of cobbled together into one interesting mess.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of fun.
And this was 10 a.m. on Saturday, when the first parade signups, I think, were also happening. And there weren't a lot. I think when the panel started, more people trickled in. I think it was like us and 5 other people in the room.
Yep.
So I think we wound up just kind of talking to people vaguely for a bit, and then we got to play the game first against each other for fun.
Which again, you and I know how to play off each other for a crowd, and I think they know that about us at this point.
They probably should do.
Yeah.
I mean, Iggy, if he's listened to this, definitely does.
Yeah.
So.
But again, we know exactly where each other's boundaries are and what we're comfortable with. And again, like.
So this is a series of mini games. Sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're good.
So there's a bunch of mini games. One is basically a lingo/wordle type game. One of which is typically, in this case, it was pick the video game that corresponds to this. One is weird news headlines. You have to guess what the weird news headline is about. And I think there was a new timeline one that was popular this time, where you had to like guess where something was in terms of numbers. Like they had numbers 1 through, I think it was like 3,000 there, and you would fill in the timeline with various numbers, and you would guess where stuff was in between them, which was quite a lot of fun.
Yep.
And when you solve enough of these mini games, you reveal squares on a board, which is a pictogram, which is basically like, I think pictogram's the right term.
I think so.
It's basically one of those things where you have like a literal puzzle that says a sentence, basically. So like for R, you might use like R the letter as opposed to R the word. For here, you might put an ear on and then put plus H to the ear, stuff like that for stuff. And it was all themed around like nautical stuff. Like ours was, you're going to need a better your boat spelled out paragraphically.
Yeah.
One was water, water everywhere, not drop to drink. Like they're fun to figure out kind of collaborative as a group. And it's a very creative game show. I like it a lot. And I love when people make their own game shows.
Yeah. And it's also got a lot of fun to just watch from the audience because again, that moment when you, as the audience member, have figured out the puzzle and the panelists haven't yet is always just a lovely moment.
Yeah. And again, it's a good job playtesting them in the right level. And he does mention he playtests them. We found out during that panel he apparently just goes to somebody who lives in a cabin in the middle of the woods and has them playtest the game.
Yep. Also his mom.
Who thought it was very creative.
And this was another one where you were teamed up with with a quote-unquote celebrity. In this case, it was Boozy and Chris the Comedy Bunny.
Yeah.
Were the two guests. So he has apparently had to make the game harder in the past just because Boozy is quite good at it.
Mm-hmm. And Boozy's also kind of competitive, so.
Yep. Boozy was on radio duty that morning and was not happy about that.
Yeah, we found out about a situation that really wasn't a situation. I'm not even gonna. I don't think that one's worth talking about.
That one's not worth talking about. Again, just the convention center has a couple of interesting quirks, and one of them caused some confusion. But Confusion.
See, I think that ran for like an hour and a half-ish, and I do appreciate that this convention does have stuff that runs for different time blocks.
Yes. Yeah, because the last one we were at, everything seemed to be hard stopped at an hour, which there was a lot of stuff about last convention that needed to be longer than that.
So after that, we stayed in the room for free blockbusters.
Yep. So again, Blockbusters, if you've not seen it, is one in which you've got 2 players opposing a single individual. So again, this was done by random draw, but they did actually ask if there are any couples or like paired friends or anything who are interested in playing together.
Which meant that we played pretty much instantly.
Yep, we volunteered pretty much instantly and got told, great, come up. So we played that.
We were kind of maybe a little too competitive with that one.
Yeah. Oh, that one was handing out actual, that was the one that was handing out Amazon gift cards as the prizes.
Yeah, we won like $40 just by winning 2 games. We didn't even win the final game because you sucked at it.
Yep.
I knew the answers to it.
Yeah, you did. That's the nature of that.
Well, this is something for which, like, we've been talking a little bit about this. As a disabled woman, and also the furry community actually has help with this, I have gotten more and more comfortable, like, actually volunteering myself for stuff as opposed to just volunteering you.
Mm-hmm.
That happens more and more. And I decided to just do rock, paper, scissors because we got to the final round, which is just one of us had to participate.
Mm-hmm.
I should have just taken that one.
You should have just taken it. I would happily have let you, but...
Well, that's just one of the things you're still learning is what your limits are with cons and participation and stuff like that. Because I have had a couple bad experiences participating. I think everyone does, because it is, a vulnerable thing. But the furry community is one of the best for it, so I should trust it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we still won 40 Amazon dollars. I did wind up giving 10 of them to the person we were playing against because it was their first Anthrocon and I felt bad. They, for the record, did fine. We're just people who do competitive trivia once a week.
Yep.
So
and I'm apparently quite quick off a buzzer when I need to be.
Yeah, you were insane. Like the Signet question, I knew as fast as you. You still beat me to that. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the trivia for this, this was by Citrus, by the way, Cirrus, was the persona who was hosting, part of the same kind of game show group.
Yep.
They did a great job, and I think they did a great job with this one, particularly pitching questions at almost exactly the right level. They were tricky, but not too tricky.
I would agree with you.
So we did that. Our game was kind of a more blowout game. This is not us bragging. This person also, it was their first time on stage. Like, they did great, and I gave them monthly gift cards because, you know, they should just get a gift card for coming up. I'd be fine with getting 3 gift cards and having them have 1.
And yeah, and the second game was much, much closer. It was much, much tenser. It was probably much more fun for the audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the second game was extremely close. It was actually quite impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, that one ended up going 2 wins to 1.
Yeah. It was best 2 out of 3. Our game ended in 2. Their game ended in 3. And
yeah.
Both the second and third game especially were incredibly close. Yeah. No one got the final puzzle, but it was still fun. So I think after this was the awkward period of the day.
Yes. So one of the big things that most furry cons will do is the fursuit parade. Again, we've talked about this in the past. And the fursuit parade is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a lot of people in fursuits, get in a line and march in a parade. It's really cool. It's really fun. At Anthrocon, there are enough of them that it shuts down half the convention center functionally.
And they did cap attendance on this also this year, or they had some standard you had to meet. I don't know what it was. I will say it wasn't ever really clearly stated on their website what their standard of fursuiting was, just to make the parade a little bit less crowded.
Yep. Which probably means it was down to whoever signed you up.
Maybe, or like I know, for instance, like fursuits can mean a number of things. They can be full body, they can be just a tail or some ears, they can be a fur head and some gloves and some stuff. So I assumed it meant something along the lines of maybe closer to a full body fursuit as opposed to just having like ears on. I don't really know. I get that this is a little bit of a controversial decision just because not everyone can afford a full fursuit because they're kind of expensive. I do get kind of the argument on the other side of just like, well, last year it was kind of a disaster because it lasted way too long and like people were last year I don't think they even left the ballroom where they were all supposed to like lead out into the parade when people were already coming back and it just got to be a bit too much. So I think there's a medium somewhere in there. Maybe make it first come first serve. That could be another way to do it. I don't fully know. I'm sure it's very hard to organize. We can't really review it because we didn't wind up attending it just because it's extremely crowded both to watch and participate in, and it's just, I like seeing fursuits. I think there's a bunch of brilliant artistry. I just kind of tend to prefer them in the hallway. It's kind of like cosplay contest, I think, for me, where like I'll catch a cosplay contest if it's easy and accessible and like there's not much else on at the time. But if it's hard for me to access or have to wait in line a long time, it's probably not going to be for me. And fursuit parades are kind of the same way. Like we saw one at MCFC just because we happened to like have a perspective on one and there wasn't much else going on. But for this, like to even get a view, you probably had to line up like an hour in advance.
Yeah. But yeah, but the main criticism I have is that because they clearly know that the fursuit parade is going to be popular and all of that, there was literally nothing scheduled against it.
Nothing at all.
Nope. Like the fursuit parade started at 2 p.m. I think there were a couple of panels that were going until 2:30 that started at 1:30. There was
no, there wasn't. There wasn't even that. Like there was a supersonic meetup at 1:30. That's the closest thing. And then the only thing at 2 p.m. is the fursuit parade, and then there's a couple more minor panels that start at 3.
So yeah, like, if you're not massively interested in the fursuit parade, yeah, have fun finding your own fun for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did.
Yeah. We wound up going. I think originally this is something else I like is like they do just kind of leave rooms open. So we went to the back of the Weston, Allegheny Ballroom, which is where we heard health panels. They have a couple roundish tables in the back of that room.
Yep.
We didn't want to go to the board game area because they didn't allow food, and I think we both wanted to like eat and drink a little bit.
Yeah, we wanted to caffeinate basically. You needed a soda, I needed one. So.
But like there were people in there doing like sound checks and messing with the AV equipment. They did not care that we were there.
Nope, they did not bother us at all.
Yeah. And I presume that they would if it was a problem. So
thanks for that, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And then we left when I think somebody started doing sound checks for I think some type of guitar concert thing that was happening later.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were getting prepped for the concert that was, I think, the next thing in there. And again, fair. Like they needed their time to do that. That is not a problem. We we finished up what we were doing and we skedaddled. Somewhere before that, we'd gone into the vendors hall.
Oh yeah, we did that also during that time period.
Yep.
So you want to talk about the vendors hall?
Yeah. So the vendors hall uses effectively the whole of the A hall and the B hall, so it's quite a lot of space. But here's the thing: they don't have as many vendors as some cons, but that does mean that they set the hall up in a really sensible way with wide aisles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know plenty of cons that would have had that many vendors crammed into half the space, but because, again, they know that there are a lot of furries there, there are going to be people in fursuits, there are going to be people in big costumes, all of that jazz, they made sure everybody had enough space, which was the right decision. Good job, guys.
They also, originally, I think the artist alley was in the vendors hall and a bit clear where it was. Then last year they moved it upstairs to like a different area, and this year they put it back in the middle of the vendors hall again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a stake in where it goes because I'm neither an artist nor a vendor. This seemed like a spot that would be good for them to get a lot of foot traffic at least, so hopefully they liked it. Because last year, there was at least some complaints that it was up in an area where people wouldn't otherwise go because it wasn't connected to the main vendors.
Yeah. But again, this is a con that seems to take feedback.
Yes. And they also had a directory of all the artists and vendors like up front, so you could look and figure out where like a particular artist or vendor that you liked was.
Yeah, which is always good to have. They did also have a section for the charity. Mm-hmm. We went out, we bought ourselves some raffle tickets because they were doing a raffle for surprises. Didn't win anything, but that's okay.
It was part of our like $100 budget that we set aside, and I was fine with doing it.
Again, put in for some plush stuff because you like plush.
Yeah, the vendors hall was nice. They had a lot of plush, some artisanal stuff, and in addition to the artist alley, a lot of the vendors did also make artisanal things, which is nice at a FurCon.
Yep.
And then there was also like generic stuff, but it was, I think, more unique than you would typically see.
Yes, like there's definitely a difference between your average sci-fi con and your average anime con have broadly similar vendors halls, not exact, but broadly similar. Whereas fur cons definitely have their own unique vendors. Like there are some that we've seen at other conventions. The people you bought your frog from at Colossal were here, but there is definitely a lot of unique stuff that is tailored exclusively to the furry community. That's good to see. I am glad that they have that. Again, a lot of cool and weird stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
Bunch
and
of
obviously
stuff
people who were selling like fursuit parts and things like that.
Yep.
They were calling people's names over the PA system a lot and saying they needed to go places. I'm still not really sure what that was about.
Yeah, it was stuff like John Smith or whatever. Please report to the desk. Again, it could just be something as simple as somebody had turned in a registration badge in their name. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, okay, you're still in the vendor's hall because we can give this back to you. Yeah. It could also, I don't know if it was a case of one of the vendors being like, hey, this person has
issued a chargeback or something like that.
Or the card payment didn't go through properly or what, but hard to know.
And it's one of those things where 99.9% of the furry community is great. If you have a group of 20,000 people, generally there's going to be some not great people in it. So yeah.
But again, for the most part, wonderful, wonderful people.
So we did that. We chilled for a bit. Went to the vendors room was still packed, by the way, understandably, as there wasn't much else going on.
Yeah.
And we went to the board game room for a bit, just to play like a kind of quiet game. We played Azul.
Yep. And then at 4, I think it was, we headed back over to the convention center.
We did at this point watch a little bit of the block party from like I think upstairs briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to for 4 p.m. for Fursuit Price is Right.
Yep.
Which is by a bunch of people who are all part of the I think
they're literally called the game chauffeurs.
Yeah, the game chauffeurs or something like that. So Crit 93, Salt Z Wolf, Augie V. Those are the names that are on the thing. There were also people who I recognize from other game show panels helping out.
Mm-hmm.
This one was popular last year and remains popular this year. I will also say we got there about 30-ish minutes early and there was already a decent chunk of people in the room, which was not the norm.
Nope.
I think it was partially just because there was nothing else on. Everyone just kind of went into the room early to sit down, which is the same thing we did.
Yep. But again, it was a popular panel.
Yeah, I'm still proud of myself because the person behind me, we didn't enter. This was standard Price is Right. They have a system that like calls your name. If you've seen the show Price is Right, and I assume you have if you've lived in this country, unlike him, because everyone's seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen the Price is Right.
It's just like comfort TV. Everyone watches it growing up as a kid because it's just on daytime television, so you just kind of watch it when you're sick or bored. It's incredibly wholesome, all the same beats. If you're somebody who really just likes it, you would watch it all the time. And I will say the host of the show does a very good job of replicating Bob Barker and his energy on this show and playing pricing games. And it's set up the same way where they put your name into a computerized system that they built, and similar to the show where they say, come on down, they randomize it and then say, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Yep.
Which is very fun. So then the contestants come out and like scream and stuff like that. The person behind me thought it was only for fursuiters, and I was like, no, anyone can sign up. You definitely should. And that person wound up winning the whole thing, so I'm kind of proud of myself. We didn't enter, though, because we had already played a bunch of board games that day, and we're like, there's a lot of people in this room. We'll let them take the lead.
Yep. Yeah, I think they had 45, 46 entrants, something like that.
And I enjoy watching Price is Right more than I do playing it anyway. Yeah, it's fun. This person does a great job with this panel. It really does feel like an episode of the show, and as somebody who's grown up watching this, like I imagine most of you, it's such a like nice comfort, particularly because you can do it without like the commercials or like the pageantry of it, but it's still very fun. And they clearly pull like from Will's shows and stuff like that. Obviously, you don't win any of the showcase prizes or anything.
Yeah, they can't really afford to give you thousands of dollars in prizes. Actually, with some furries, they probably could. Who knows? But you know. But yeah, again, even as somebody who's never seen The Price is Right, I had fun sitting and watching this. You know, so it's interesting. Every other game show this weekend took the time to like explain the rules. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Price is Right, they didn't. They just assumed everybody there knew what was going on.
For the most part, people did.
Yep.
It's a show that pretty much everyone in America has seen, so it's like explaining the rules of Wheel of Fortune. Oh wait, you don't have the one either.
Nope.
What's a show that everyone in the UK has seen that's like a game show?
I want to say Countdown.
Okay, yeah, something like that. Like you just know the rules. Well, the Countdown's actually hard to play. You can't play that at a con.
Why not?
Because it's too hard.
Yeah, fair.
Like no one who's exhausted and drunk wants to play Countdown.
True. I still think a pointless panel at a con would be a good one.
It'd be a pain in the heck to set up.
Yeah, you need to. It's like, again, it's like Family Feud. You need to do a quiz of 100 people.
Yeah. I mean, if we just stole the questions from actual pointless, then maybe, but then we'd have to like make up answers for the answers they didn't give, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anywho, after that, I think we headed over and ended up in the variety show.
Yeah, we did stay for something briefly after that, but I think it was mostly just because we were tired.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that was the Furry Fact or Fiction.
Yeah, which we can't talk about if you want, but we didn't stay in it very long, so it's up to you.
Again, I'd basically say, it seemed competent enough. The host freely admitted that they've had some health problems in the last year, so they were reusing a lot of questions from last year.
And it's a bit hard after we've been to so many fantastic game show panels to go to one that's a little bit more low energy. I will also just admit this. I think this next hour block was the block in the day where a lot of people at this con are great. Pretty much all of them are. And crowd control, I would say, was better this year, as evidenced with what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just 20,000 people. Like, little things are going to annoy you. And I think this was just like the hour block where I'm just like, I'm just done with humans / furries who are still kind of sort of humans for the next. My patience was just gone. I wasn't mean to anyone, I want to emphasize. I was just a little bit over everything and like just not kind of feeling the con vibes for a bit, which I think happens to most people.
Oh yeah, that's a normal thing.
Like, you have it too.
Oh yeah, call it con drop.
Yep. And it is just a 20,000 person con. Also, drink every time I say the word intense in this review, because there's a lot. So there was just a lot of that, and I think I was just at the point where I was just getting a little bit impatient with like people stopping in the middle of aisleways when they shouldn't, or somebody like making a remark that I kind of sort of didn't agree with one time. Like, it's just incredibly minor stuff, but you know, very big, intense drink convention, and I needed a break at this point. So we went to Anthrocon tonight, which is the variety show, which is actually quite unique.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it seems at least, we didn't get there for the. They actually like let people into the room to sit down, because last year they queued people up in the hallway outside the Allegheny, which did not work.
No, it was a bit of a mess, and it was definitely a fire hazard.
Yeah. They also last year for certain panels let people sit on the floor of the Allegheny Ballroom, which is also a fire hazard, particularly when people are in fursuits.
Yeah, for one particular panel, they completely overfilled the room to the point where it was definitely dangerous last year. This year, they put that panel in main events.
That's probably good.
That was probably the right decision.
Although I will say they clearly, like, because the first time we were there, they had the seats, like, all the way up to the stage. They clearly moved them back for some, like, musical performance earlier that weekend. And they never wound up moving them back to, like, being very close to the stage.
Yeah, they sit back pretty much the rest of the time, which kind of sort of worked for some things. Like,
I mean, the room was never full enough that you needed it.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to be closer to the stage for certain stuff.
Yeah.
So Anthrocon tonight is a variety show. We were just planning to kind of sit in the back of that because there wasn't much else on at this time period that interested us.
Yep.
And I was still, keep in mind for this, in my I'm annoyed by other people phase and just kind of want to like chill out and keep to myself. So I'll let you describe what happened next, because you're probably more objective than I am.
Again, we'd gone in, we sat down at a table kind of, not at the back, but like we had an okayish view, wasn't great.
We weren't really intending to like fully pay attention to it or anything.
Yeah. Then we started to get into the panel because it opened with the Furry Choir.
The Furry Choir, I didn't know the backstory of this. We did see them briefly last year, but I didn't catch the backstory last year.
Mm-hmm.
This was amazing. Like, I love that they did this. You want to explain it?
Certainly. So this is something that is clearly a passion project for Pepper Coyote, which is basically you sign up in advance to be part of this. You get together on the day. He has sent the music out in advance, but they had like 2 hours of rehearsal time, and they sounded phenomenal. So good job. I don't envy you trying to wrangle 30-ish people, and get them to actually turn up at the ballroom on time. But again, they sung a bunch of songs, some of which we knew, some of which we didn't, and I very much enjoyed a choral version of "Carry On My Wayward Son," which I'm pretty sure he was encouraging the audience to sing along with. If he wasn't tough, I was.
Yep. I mean, he did seem to be waving his hands a couple times, but yeah, it was just the fact that you're able to wrangle that many people to do that and encourage people with no singing experience. Like, that's something I honestly would be into.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who's not terribly good at singing, just doing it in a group where there's no pressure on me would actually be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad that we missed this event, apparently called Furry PowerPoint Karaoke, which I just didn't see on the schedule, where apparently you could sing a presentation you didn't see before. It was at the same time as this event. Not that that other event wasn't great, but we should definitely keep in mind that if that's ever happening again, because that sounds awesome.
That does sound pretty fun. But yeah, while we were there and sort of just at the point where we were starting to get into it, somebody came and sat down at our table without asking. And here's the thing. If he'd said, "Do you mind if I sit?" we would have said, "Yes, absolutely, feel free." It's just the lack of social awareness to just do that without checking kind of rankles a little bit. And as mentioned, our social battery was kind of at the point where that just really ticked us off a bit.
Yeah.
And that's not even like, it's not even really that person's fault, but it rankled.
And again, I'm just in any con space, you're not gonna like have everything be like you're not the center of attention, obviously, which is absolutely fine. But that means some people are gonna want to do stuff a certain way that isn't your way of doing stuff, and just having to deal with like those kind of micro compromises you make every single like moment of the day, like sharing a shared space. It kind of just gets a lot to you. Also, we moved to new seats, and I felt instantly better. We saw more of the show. I enjoyed what we saw. It's very singing oriented,
Yes, so
musical oriented, but still fun.
yeah, I think my only real complaint about it is that for a variety show, it was basically all music apart from one guy who was doing some stand-up comedy, and I would have liked to see a bit more variety.
It did start and end on time this year,
It
though.
did. That was amazing. Um, but I think, again, while I say that's a complaint, that's mostly just they're limited by who they get volunteering to be part of it. You know, if they mostly got people who wanted to sing, fine. Like that's what they had to work with. Yeah. And for the record, all the performers were great. Like I respect the hell out of everybody who got up on that stage. Yeah. And I think in part it's probably because like if you're interested in stand-up comedy, there is the open mic panel, and if you're interested in various other things. So I suspect at that point, singing's one of the few things they didn't have a dedicated panel for.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. They did have one comedic act. I want to see like a little bit more skit, like you do in Masquerade or something like that, or maybe somebody who's just written something cool or poetry. I think those could also be really cool skills.
Yeah.
And you did have to like send them a video, I think, of your talent beforehand, because there's obviously more interest and stuff like that. Which I get doing it that way as opposed to first come first serve. There's a lot of lower stakes ways to kind of participate in stuff throughout the weekend if you want to do first come first serve. So plus at a smaller con, if they have this, I think probably anyone can just participate.
Yeah. But again, it's the kind of event I would like to see more at cons generally.
Yeah.
Just celebration of people's creativity, because again, some people are doing covers, some people are doing original music.
This is what I like a lot about furry cons, and it's similar to what I like about steampunk cons, is they do just have events that are just like, well, you guys are the talent. It's not the fandom or it's not the show or thing that we're celebrating. It's the talent. It's you that we're celebrating.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
And again, that's because there isn't like a mainstream furry thing that you are a fan of. There isn't a mainstream steampunk thing that they're a fan of. Like you're celebrating individual works and you're celebrating each other's art in a way that a lot of other fandoms kind of lack. So yeah.
So after this, we did Whose Line Is It Anyway with Alkali. Iggy does co-host this. I forgot to mention that earlier, and Drago was also there.
Yep.
Presumably helping. I'm not just saying he was like there.
Yeah, he was handing out mics and all that kind of jazz.
Like he was doing a lot of the technical work, which is actually quite important.
So again, Whose Line Is It Anyway? If you've seen the show, you know how this panel basically works. Again, it's a bunch of improv comedy. It's a bunch of fun games. They do Scenes from a Hat and World's Worst as basically anybody from the audience who wants to participate in that can do. And then they do a bunch of other games where they'll call up individual volunteers.
I do tend to prefer when it's a bit smaller than it is at Anthrocon. I think I mentioned that earlier when I was comparing the two, just because it's nice to just make sure everyone gets a chance to like get up on stage and do their thing, which in fairness, I think anyone who wanted to get up on stage could have at this particular con.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still in mind just like I'm a little tired thing, and I wanted to give you priority on this since I got priority in terms of who gets picked for the stand-up panel.
Yep.
And I do, like, this is the thing that we have noticed when we're, like, volunteering for stuff. Sometimes people do kind of just view us as, like, one person, even though we're not.
Yeah.
I don't think that this particular group does it, because they at least know us, although they don't know our names, except Diggy, who's actually listened to this.
Yep.
Although I did find out Boozy's name today, because it was on his laptop.
Oh, I knew that already. I don't know what his surname is, but I know what his first name is.
I thought you thought his first name was Barry.
No. But yeah. Alright, lost my train of thought.
Whose Line?
Yeah. So, Whose Line, again, it's a lot of fun as a panel. You kind of know roughly what you're going to get, but at the same time, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Well, Alkalite really promotes people because he knows that anyone, when they're pushed a little bit, can be funny.
Yeah.
And he loves giving people that one moment where they're just like the star of the room, and that's awesome. Iggy's the same way. They do a great job of like setting people up, and they do a great job of running this when there's way too many people to like conceivably run it, and giving everyone like a moment to kind of shine or do what they want to do, which is awesome.
And again, I do think he likes to so there are some games that I think he knows are really good for new people, and I do think he tries to prioritize people who he's not seen on stage before for those.
Yep.
And then there are others that I think he knows he likes to call up people who've had a little bit of experience doing it, so he knows will be good at it.
Yep.
Or he's seen them do like a simpler game in the past and wants to give them the opportunity for a more complex game.
Yeah, I'm kind of encouraging people and developing them.
Yeah.
And I also think not that I'm crediting him for like all of the other panels, but a lot of people who are part of the panelist group that he's kind of a part of, he's helped develop as comedians and performers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And also, I don't want to like discredit Iggy here. He's doing a lot of the work too. He's the one who I think, Iggy loves improv. You can tell that. Like, he absolutely loves it. And that's also awesome. And Drygar was like, handing out mics, which was really important.
Yep. He got in a few good jokes.
He did. He was pretending to be a dog drowning in the water at one point.
Yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, so I ended up doing a game called Dating Game, which is basically it's a very similar setup to Party Quirks, except it's set up as in the style of the old Dating Game TV show. So one contestant is interviewing the other four as potential dates and trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with them. So my particular quirk for that one was secretly not really a furry, which is hilarious given that I'm not actually a furry. Which is kind of why I called dibs on that one. But I basically just played it as somebody who kept getting everything about furry wrong. Like the rave. Oh yes, the rave. It's a very sophisticated event, lots of bark, lots of Beethoven, absolutely no alcohol. That kind of gag.
I still love when you were on stage choosing like what role you were going to perform. You immediately wanted to take that one because you weren't actually a furry, and everyone at that table was instantly confused.
Yep. Yeah, basically everybody says, why are you here then? Right.
We love conventions.
We do.
Like, I don't know how many conventions you actually have to go to in terms of the furry variety to just be a furry. Like, we do go to, I think this is like our fourth one. I don't know.
I think it's fifth.
Whatever.
But
we just don't otherwise hang out with the furry fandom. It's evidenced by the fact that multiple people have asked me for stuff on Telegram this weekend that I don't have. I do have the Telegram app. I don't understand how it works. I've tried. And I realize it's intuitive, but you have to understand that the intuitiveness of the Telegram app makes it incredibly easy for you to encounter people's penises, and I don't want to do that, so yeah.
Yep. Furries are a very interesting group.
For the record, again, it's...
Don't go into the not safe for work chat if you don't want to see the not safe for work stuff.
And I will say that every time I've had to join a Knife Safe for Work chat, don't ask why I had to. On Telegram, they did ask for my ID.
Yeah.
Which I sent them. They said I could blur out like my driver's license number and stuff like that. They just needed to verify that it was over the age of 18.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Here's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Very cute. And yeah, there were a lot of great show stealing moments that I love watching people on stage just kind of have their moment in the sun.
Yeah.
I didn't go up for any games for that one. There were a couple like just general audience pool games that I could have gone up for just because everyone went up for those games. I just didn't really feel like standing in a large group of people.
In a ball gown.
Yeah. That was pretty much all that was.
Yeah.
And I do tend to like the more complex games a little bit more, I'll admit.
Yeah.
So after that, the final thing we did, kind of, was Convention War Stories.
Yes.
Which was a good panel.
Yes.
This is what it sounds like. It's people telling tales about going to conventions.
Yeah. In particular, again, this was Boozy, this was Alkali, this was Spud, who's the... Spud or Spudge? I'm unclear. who is actually the con's director of programming. So as he basically says, everything that happens is his fault. And various other persons, including somebody who's apparently, was he the chairman of Furcon Brazil, or?
Yeah, I think something like that. It was a bit unclear. But they all have stories from just different cons that happens.
Yeah.
And they apparently have a rule that they wait 2 years to tell the story, just so people aren't horrified that they basically never follow.
Yeah. Like
it's not really a rule at this point.
Yeah, they always say there's a 2-year rule, but like they break it enough that like.
And I imagine you must get more stuff behind the scenes generally, and also like we don't do the late night stuff, so
Yep.
yeah, our reviews tend to be more tame. Get more listens if we like have more crazy stories, but whatever.
Probably, but we're boring.
So we've been to this panel before. It was funny. It was funny this time. It was just, it was late. We were tired, and there was kind of something really bizarre was happening.
Yeah, there was somebody who was filming the panel.
Yeah, which is fine. A lot of these panels were filmed incidentally. It's just ordinarily when that happens, somebody just has a camera at the back of the room they use a zoom lens on.
Yep. Whereas the person filming this one had a giant camera that, like, they were frequently getting, like, within a foot of the person talking's face. And, like, I think they have to have been in some way official and relating to the con, because nobody on the panel was stopping them.
But they were, like, an inch from their face with a camera.
And that also meant that they were standing in between the panelists
and the audience,
which was just really frustrating and annoying.
Well, it's also, again, we did pay to go to this, and I get that it doesn't necessarily entitle us to everything, but I do think that entitles the audience members generally to the entertainment that's in front of them, as opposed to whoever the video's for, which is presumably not the audience.
So yeah, that guy was kind of pissing us off, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it was also late. Again, I had felt better, I think, a little bit after Whose Line and Anthro Show tonight, because both of those were really cool.
Yeah.
But I was kind of tired and done at this point. It's an intense drink con.
Yep.
And I was just kind of like, I just kind of want to go home. It's like 11. I'm good, I think. Plus, our parking expired at midnight, so I'm just like...
Well, it didn't expire. It would have just doubled the price.
Speaking of which, you just want to turn around and get ice cream, because that seems easier than doing anything else.
Sure. Yeah, I'll turn us around to the next logical spot. So, what was the next thing? Actually, yeah, the next thing was we went back to the Airbnb.
Yep.
Did I get... Yeah, I actually got food that night. I got Taco Bell.
We got Taco Bell.
Woo!
Again.
I probably eat too much Taco Bell. It's fine. Yeah, so we got food.
Mm-hmm.
Went back to the Airbnb, collapsed. Because we had to be up early this morning.
Yeah. Because Boozy's Basics of Law panel was at 9 a.m. I was very interested to see how many people attended that. It was actually surprisingly well attended.
It was, but I love the fact it's literally the only 9 a.m. panel all weekend.
Yeah, and it was, for whatever reason, in a different room than his other panel for no reason, even though there was nothing on.
Yep.
And I think he said something at some point about, like, requesting a lecture room or something. Like, okay.
I'm assuming he requested either 406 or the one that's on the other side. Yeah, where they had the game shows.
They just gave him a different room that wasn't related for no reason.
Yeah.
Also, I want to emphasize this, Boozy. Like, you're not going to listen to this anyway. It's fine.
I mean, here's the thing. If we tell Iggy to tell him to listen to a specific part of this podcast, there's a non-zero chance he'd do it.
I also want to emphasize that Iggy is quite sick right now, and if he does not have the energy to listen to this podcast...
We do not actually expect it.
Anyway... The thing is, like, I get Boozy does this panel because he likes to pretend that he's a law professor. That's the reason he does it. It's one of the many jobs he clearly fancies himself having, as well as being a comedian and an actual lawyer. He's good at the other two. He's also a good teacher. I'm not saying he's not. But an audience of people who voluntarily pay to be there, who answer your questions, and don't just stare at you like gaping because it's 9 a.m. They don't want to be there. They don't care, despite your emphasis to make it interesting because they've been forced to be there, is different than a bunch of like furries who are like vaguely interested in your presentation style and interested in the basics of law. You're teaching on easy mode, buddy.
Here's the thing. Like, I'm not convinced he would disagree with you.
You have the easiest experience this is. Teaching willing participants in a circumstance where they're awake and interested and also have the, like, capacity and background to understand what you're presenting, which at a college level a lot of times they don't, is easy mode.
My wife, the professor, ladies and gentlemen.
Teaching is hard. Teaching good students is not actually that hard. It's quite easy. The hard part is getting to us students who don't care to be interested in teaching students who, for no fault of their own, just don't have the preparation they need to be in their class.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Boozy would actually agree with that.
Yes.
But also, like, I've already used the curse word or the F-bomb I'm allowed to use during this podcast because the drink spilled, but no, I would be cursing at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
F you for presenting this as though it's that hard. To be clear, I actually think this panel is fine and I quite enjoy it.
There's a reason why we keep going to it.
But I don't answer questions unless I'm being a smartass, because I do think Boozy needs to learn how to teach people like that.
Yeah, again, this is the panel in which he calls you a, well, what was it, philosophical smartass?
I think so. Boozy does know our occupations, at least vaguely.
Yeah, he knows you're a philosophy professor.
And to be clear, I would not be making these jokes unless I knew that they would presumably take them in a good-natured way.
Yeah, like again.
And he does respect me and my career quite a bit.
Yeah, again, done with love, etc., etc., etc. But again, this one was in particular talking about mens rea, the guilty mind, and the old legal defense of, oh yeah, well I fired the gun 6 times, but I didn't necessarily mean to shoot him, and it's like, yeah, does that count as a crime and all of that fun stuff? Mm-hmm. And as per usual, he freely admitted that he created the slideshow like a while back to teach, what was it, 9th graders?
Yeah.
Which makes me concerned about the name of the character that's in it at one point that I can't say on the podcast because we've already used the one curse.
Yeah. I've said ass like a bunch of times. Does that count?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. But this panel actually, it's informative, it's fun, it teaches you about concepts. I will admit there's times when I know the answers that I don't raise my hand because, again, Boozy needs to learn how this works. I'm also fairly good at telling where the panel is going to go because of what concepts he's presenting and stuff like that. So
again, as you said, there's a lot of crossover between lawyers and philosophers in terms of the way their thought patterns are organized. Like you said before, that a philosophy major is actually a really good prep if you want to go to law school.
Well, he did actually use, I was joking about it, but he did actually use subjective and objective the way they're supposed to be used, is the way that they're used just like colloquially. So people think subjective means matter of opinion. It doesn't. It means mind dependent, which means something different. I'm not going to explain why it's different because this is not a podcast where I teach you stuff. But it has inspired me to maybe do more educational panels. I tend to shy away from, when we're doing paneling, doing more educational stuff because it's my job. Mm-hmm. So I don't always want to do that. Fair. But it is reminding me that if I do it at a con, I'll actually have an audience that cares. So that's cool.
This is true. Yeah, so after that we scarpered over to the other side of the convention center for
his other panel, half the audience.
Yep.
And who all got there before him.
Yep. Yeah, when he turned up, he did actually, because again, the next panel was mass debation. Mm-hmm. Say it slowly and carefully. It is 2 separate words.
We did wind up bringing your rooster to that.
Yes, we did bring my rooster with us, which again, if you've listened to the Motor City FurCon episode, you'll know we bought a giant stuffed rooster specifically so that we could make the very obvious jokes.
Yeah. Iggy also had his peacock
there,
which I think happened also at Anthro, Ohio.
It did, so they made
friends.
Which got a laugh out of the audience while we were waiting for
last night also I had the moth with me, and we found a person with a moth bag that was the same type of moth we had that also had the magnetic plastic wings, and there was some attraction there.
Yeah. You just wanted to make that joke.
I did, but I also like talking about stuffed animals making friends, because as a stuffed animal enthusiast who's also a functioning adult, I really don't get a lot of opportunities to meet stuffed animal enthusiasts who are also functioning adults, except at FurCons.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Anyway.
Pretty
fair. So, mass debation is, as we've talked about in the past, a panel in which the panelists debate very stupid things, with Boozy kind of overseeing it, and you can give to charity to in some way mess with them and to decide who won the debate. Yeah, this one went off the rails hard.
This was kind of our, it wasn't really entirely our fault, but it was kind of our fault.
So, you and I have been to this panel before. We know that by paying money to the charity, you're allowed to mess with the people doing it in some capacity. So, Alkali was, making a impassioned argument in favor of his bottom drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd already had to go a second time because the first time he was making an impassioned argument in favor of the wrong thing because he hadn't been paying enough attention.
This was basically turned into a roast of Alkali and also forcing Alkali to talk for a very long time. It followed no coherent scheme.
Yeah.
They claim this wasn't the most off the rails it's gotten, but it's definitely the most off the rails that we've witnessed that it's gotten. And we've seen this, I think 4 times.
Yeah. So I just went up to the front, slapped a $5 bill on Boozy's desk and said, add 30 seconds to his time, because I thought it was funny. And it was funny. And it was funny enough that I was not the only one who did that when people realized it was an option.
Yep. You presented that as an option because we've seen it done to other panels, and I knew that Boozy would just basically accept it. And then that became, because the panel's about earning money, and what Alkali does on stage is act upset so that people will give more money, which is great.
Yep.
It's not like manipulation or anything. Anyone can tell that's what is going on. It's fun to participate in, and it's kind of just a fun charity raising game. Again,
here's the thing. If you're a fan of British comedy, Alkali would actually do quite well in the UK in terms of that style, because if you've ever seen Taskmaster, the reason why the American version of Taskmaster didn't really work when they tried it is that American comedians frequently want to be the cool person in the room. British comedians are aware of the fact that they're going to be the butt of the joke, and they're comfortable with that. They are fine with making themselves look dumb if it will get the laugh out of the audience.
I will admit, running a Taskmaster panel specifically for that group of people would be incredibly awesome.
Oh my god.
I've thought about doing it. For the record, I don't know any of these people particularly well, and I'm sure they could do it just fine on their own without me. I would just have a lot of fun as somebody whose brain would be very good at designing tasks at doing that.
Oh god, Taskmaster. But here's the thing. You and I, we did actually pitch a Taskmaster panel to Techo, which got turned down, I suspect just because we pitched it by the time we pitched it, I'm pretty sure they'd already sorted half their schedule.
Yeah, it's fine.
So we weren't offended that it didn't get through. But it would be an interesting panel to run, and you're right, that group would be
perfect, phenomenal. So yeah, if you do happen to be listening to this and are willing to let my brain come up with weird crap like this crap is it's fine.
That one barely counts as curse. You're fine.
Impress this 19-year-old in less than 10 words.
Yep.
Or dub this anime. I'm not going to tell you what it is in advance.
Yep. Again, there's a lot of very stupid things we could make you do that would probably raise money.
Or do the most unproblematic romantic thing you can in the next 5 minutes. Or get this duck as far across the convention center as you can without leaving the room.
Oh, yeah, that would be a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is just what my brain does all day. So if anyone wants to let me write this for them, I absolutely would.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so this panel got very off the rails very, very quickly, but it was a lot of fun, and they raised $700 for the charity. So worth it. But again, it says something that Alkali's response at the end of the panel to me was he had, from the stage. It's because we were, in the front row for this one. He just looked at me and was just like, dude, thank you for getting that started. Also, what I'm not allowed to say on this podcast, you for getting this started. I'm like, you're welcome. And that was the right reaction.
Yeah, well, I think you had to apologize to him, and I think we're both a little bit worried in the middle of it that we had just completely derailed the panel because we had never seen it get this derailed before, although apparently it has been.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew, the point of the panel is to raise money for charity. So if it just turns into something that's just not a debate and just forcing somebody to talk for 30 minutes because it's funny
on a very stupid topic,
somehow puppets are involved later.
Yeah, the puppet. Well, again, if you've heard the Anthrocon episode, you know about Sokolai.
Sokolai, who's I don't know the person who plays them, but they're great. They're awesome.
There they are. But yeah, Sokolai made a reappearance,
as well as another puppet. I can't describe any further than that, but that happened.
Yeah, that was puppetry.
And then people just desperately trying to find ways to pass the buck to each other to fill the time.
Yep. That was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a very, very fun, very, very silly, very, very completely off the rails panel. But it was fun. The con is still going, by the way.
It is, by the way. We did leave early. We left after the charity auction, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
Because this is intense. Drink, con.
Yep.
We're, I think, about at our limit, and there wasn't a lot else on besides the closing ceremonies. Though this does, again, mean we did not see the main stage, which I'm sure was elaborately decorated like it was last year at all.
Yep.
Although there weren't that many events on the main stage this year.
Yeah, I did notice that. Again, I think it was largely used for the dance stuff.
Yeah,
and
they
the
did
parties
have
and all
a couple
that.
of comedy shows in them we didn't wind up seeing. This one we weren't really interested in. The other we decided to go play game shows with Iggy instead of go see.
Yeah.
And improv with Iggy.
Yep. Which again, it's the classic thing of this con, for the most part, has a lot of stuff we like in terms of its paneling. It's just it's frequently opposite each other.
Yeah. Which cons can't be built around your own schedule. That's just the thing a lot of the time. But I do think, presumably people who are fans of Alkaline Boozy are also going to be fans of Iggy, so maybe you could break that up a little bit. Although I don't know how much you could, because it seemed like they were working all weekend.
They were working hard this weekend.
And I think the only break they had was during that Saturday break. And while I do think there should be paneling then, give them a break then. Con's ridiculously crowded. Iggy basically told us he was going to go back up to his hotel room and just collapse for a couple hours, which earned. Yeah. As somebody who teaches a class, which I know is not the same thing, but is similar in some respects, I feel wiped after teaching. Because it's performative, it's high energy. You've seen me after a full day of teaching.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
So the last thing we did, we toured the vendors hall briefly.
Yep.
Checked the charity auction. We didn't win anything, but it's for charity.
Yep. You don't mean the auction, you mean the raffle.
Then we went to the charity auction, which is what it sounds like. It's a charity auction. Most of the reason I'll admit I go to this is just because furries auction off the weirdest stuff, and I like seeing what they auction off.
Yeah, like giant roosters.
Yep, that was auctioned off. There was a giant dragon auctioned off at this one. That was pretty cool that somebody just made. There was an amazing quilt, one of the most amazing quilts I've seen that was on theme of just sea life. It had so many sea animals on it. I didn't want it, but it's hard to draw. I will say we were priced out of pretty much anything we could have wanted to buy incredibly quickly.
Some of the stuff was going for a lot of money. I think that charity auction raised like 20 grand.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the biggest ticket items in terms of raw price were hotel rooms for next year's con.
If you're staying in one of the main sanctioned hotels, they open the hotel block, I think, sometime before the con, and there's a race to make sure you can get hotels and register for hotels with groups of people in that time period.
So in this case, they were auctioning off basically just a guaranteed room in the hotels that have agreed to participate. And one of the hotels had actually agreed to provide a suite, and if it went for enough money, bump it up to a fancier suite. And it did, in fact, get bumped up.
Nice. So yeah, some of this was $5,000 or something like that.
Yep, that was the big one. That was the suite. Which, based on the fact that the pictures that they were showing of the type of suite had Uncle Kage's luggage in, I think it's the kind of suite he stays in.
Yeah.
Which, fair, he is the con share.
Fair. And I assume that at least is comped for him, and if he wants to give himself that luxury with all the other stuff he has to deal with, valid. Yeah. Do what you want. Yeah. And if it's not comped at all and you're paying for it yourself, also valid. But yeah, this is part of the reason why I think I'm for Airbnbs in part, is just I don't like dealing with the scrum. Now, for some of them you are actually connected. If you do stay in the West End, you are just connected to the con.
Yeah, the last hotel room that they sold off was one in the West, and they basically said, it's not the nicest of the hotel rooms we've sold off of this, but it's the closest.
Yep.
It is basically going to be on the 5th floor.
So you don't even have to deal with the elevator, which apparently is a nightmare to deal with. You can just walk down the stairs.
Yep. You don't have to leave the convention center for the entire 5 days if you don't want to.
Which is, I think, again, the prices they were paying, I know how much these rooms go for, were still pretty decent. So.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
And one thing that's nice about connected hotel rooms is it doesn't, you can just kind of go back to your hotel and chill out, which isn't generally an option we have at cons.
Yeah. If we're driving from home, or if we're, even this Airbnb that was only 10 minutes away, it's still a bit of a pain to drive back, and again, you've got to pay for parking, and there might not be a spot when you get back, and all of that jazz. Whereas if you're in a connected hotel, you go back to your room, and it's great.
And it's also great for when you're just having moments you're just kind of done with people.
Yep.
Which happens to everyone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, again, the charity auction was well run. Surprisingly few bids of $69 this year.
And again, I don't know what happened with the fiasco with main events this year, where like stuff was running behind there, but everything we went to ended like surprisingly on time. Minus, the furry jury panel, which did not end on time, despite what Boozy Badger thinks.
Dear. But yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the last thing we did today.
Con is still going. Closing hasn't even happened yet. Won't for another 20-ish minutes.
Yep. But again, at this point, we wanted to get on the road.
And we did drive like an extra 40 minutes in a random direction to record this.
It wasn't a random direction. Like, we're still on the 70. But, it does mean we just passed the, turn back Columbus criminals sign, which I still don't know what the heck that's supposed to be talking about.
I don't know.
So yeah. So that was Anthrocon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming at this point...
we need to talk about the stuff we didn't do.
Yep.
We've been bad about doing that. Well, sort of. Okay, so again, there was a whole thing on puppets this weekend, which is new. I didn't notice that last year. There was just a bunch of puppet stuff. Puppet obstacle course, puppet slam. I still really want to go to a puppet slam. I was mad it was opposite something else we wanted to do.
Yep.
We did kind of sort of see a puppet slam in a different sense earlier today. That wasn't the type of puppet slam I wanted to see. So...
I mean, speak for yourself on that front.
Then a puppet obstacle course. They had teaching you how to make your own puppets. So a lot of puppet stuff.
Yep.
Various meetups. That's pretty normal. A bunch of musical acts and performances. We don't tend to go to those, but they're pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Fursuit dance competition, which is standard.
Yep.
The fursuit parade. There's a poker tournament. That's cool. They do have a sightseeing cruise boat that they bring around where you can like get on and cruise around the water.
We don't like boats, so we didn't do that.
You don't like boats. I have no big thing. I'm in costume. I don't want to go on a boat.
Yeah, I get a little seasick.
Like most cons right now, they have an escape room that costs money because a lot of cons have those. I don't know how popular those ever wind up being, but most cons tend to have them these days.
Which implies they probably do at least, I'm not just picturing a bunch of furries in full fursuits trying to do an escape room, and
that's kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
We already talked about the Headless Lounge. They did have a bunch of those.
Mm-hmm.
They had some writing workshop panels.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of writing panels over this weekend. Like they seem to start with the basics on Thursday and then get more advanced as it went throughout the weekend. So I was wondering if it was just one person or a small group of people running those.
Interesting. They have generally Furry cons also have this where they just have a room full of inflatables you can play with that are like balloons. That's cool.
Yep. Again, they're mostly animal themed.
They had some disability pride and otherwise accessibility related events this weekend.
Yep. Which again, love to see that. Yeah, again, this was a con with a lot to do.
Yeah, I feel like they've upped the stuff to do. I feel like there was more to do this year than last year.
Yeah, because one of our big complaints last year was just it didn't feel like there was that much to do. Whereas I didn't really feel that this year. Again, apart from a couple of specific times. Like during the fursuit parade.
PowerPoint karaoke, which, Kremen, if you're doing that again, and you happen to be listening to this, you won't be, but if you are, let us know. I want to go to that. That sounds awesome. Stuff about making fursuits, that's traditional. Different types of fursuits.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff. Game tournaments, which is stuff you might expect, and yeah. Very well done schedule this year, I think.
Yeah.
So, you want to do top con moments?
I think so. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
Did I go first last time? I don't remember.
I haven't the foggiest.
I haven't thought of what?
So here's the thing. Last time we got kind of screwed up because we were in the middle of a rainstorm.
Yeah, I had to do 4.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose I need to go first this time, don't I? So I'm actually going to go with singing along with the furry choir to carry on my wayward son.
Aww.
I actually really enjoyed that.
I will go with stuffed animal meet and greets over this weekend. I've had a lot of fun, just playing with stuffed animals with other people who really like stuffed animals. That was really cool for me.
That's fair. Okay, you might be annoyed at me for taking this one.
I mean, I had my shot at it.
Watching you performing stand-up during the basics of stand-up panel, I really enjoyed that because you were clearly a teensy bit nervous up until the end of the first joke.
Yep.
At which point you knew you were just oh, okay, no, this audience is on board with this. I can do this.
Well, yeah, I didn't know how far I could take. My sense of humor gets quite macabre, and I don't know.
You opened with a line about your mother being dead.
Yeah, and I didn't know if that was too far, but no one stopped me, so it was great.
Again, you gave Alkali the "oh God, we're going there" look, and that's usually a good sign from him.
Yep. And Alkali does do a very good job of playing up to the crowd and helping them around, so that's sweet. Well, I'll trade you in for that. Is this one fair? It's fine. I will take watching you perform at Whose Lion Is It Anyway? Technical Lion.
That's fair.
And your performance was good. Don't get me wrong. It was great. It wasn't your best performance ever, just because I have other ones. I thought your job at WeebCon was fantastic. That's probably one of my favorites. This one was also still really, really good. Don't get me wrong. But you looked really hot.
Nice.
It was also good, but you looked really hot.
It's fair.
Plus, Alkali flirted with you. I think he did that during the cheer. I don't even remember which point it was.
Again,
this
as
time.
we keep pointing out, Alkali flirts with everybody. That's just the nature of who he is, and that's fine.
I do want to emphasize when we say Alkali flirts with people, it's done in a playful and safe way, and it's done with people he knows will take it the correct way.
Yes, he does not flirt with anybody. He does not
It's joke.
Yes.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
So that was my second one?
That was your second one. I'm trying to think what was my third. And again, in case anybody's listening, we don't actually put these top con moments in a specific order. This isn't 3, 2, 1 or anything. This is just as we think of them. This is the problem. A lot of stuff happened this weekend, and half of it's blurred. So remembering specific things gets harder after a while. Again, I do really just love MST3K as a panel. I would love more cons to do it, but I understand it does require a certain amount of setup and a bunch of other stuff.
Well, doing it the way they do it requires a bunch of setup. If you just want to put people in a room and let them make fun of a movie because you trust them to not be racist as a group, I think that would work great.
Yeah, probably would.
Just put on a bad movie and have a bunch of people make fun of it.
But yeah.
Maybe have a moderator just to make sure no one goes too far.
Yeah, again, I had a lot of fun with that. Your third?
My third actually might be meeting the people from Anthro Ohio on the roof. It was really I enjoyed just being on the roof, just chatting with people for a few minutes and just kind of being in the atmosphere that is what this is. Because it was 4th of July, there were fireworks flying I could see in the background, boats were around, there were a ton of people in fur costumes. And just these people who we met at another con were just talking to us and recognized us during the darkness of that, saying hi. And that was just amazing. Having that connection out there in the world.
It was.
So, would we go back, and why?
So, I would say we would go back. Or I would.
As a reminder, a con ranking system is basically just would we go back or would we not go back. We thought about doing an S through F tier system, then felt that seemed too mean-spirited for what we wanted to do.
So, again, it's basically just a case of would we go back? Yes, no, maybe. And this one is, we probably would. Again, it's an intense one. It is one we need to psych ourselves up for.
And I just think we did a better job with this year than last year.
Well, we knew what to expect.
Which does help, which makes me a bit nervous for Gen Con.
Yeah, that's in a month.
Just because I do think not being a rookie does help you out a lot. But I just think that as a tip, if you have a con that you kind of like, but you think there were some problems with it, if you go back in knowing those problems, you're great. And you did, I want to say, a fantastic job getting me to accessibility, and I do want to thank all the accessibility staff. I could tell they were trying hard this weekend. But yeah, it is something for which you have to know what it is going in. It's incredibly intense. Just walking through the building is an intense experience. And because it's such an intense experience, it's something that's not for everyone. We've talked to some people at smaller fur cons who say that Anthrocon and cons of that size just aren't for them.
Which is completely fair.
Yeah.
I understand that. It's very much a case of this is not a con that I could go to frequently.
Yeah.
No. Because it is.
And by frequently, we mean going every day or, twice a month or something like that. Although.
Yeah.
I will say this is a very interesting month for cons because we have TECO in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that we have Gen Con, which will probably be our last big con for quite a while.
Yeah.
Makes sense to go out, at least in that sense, with a bang. After that, we're doing a couple smaller conventions. We might do IFC as the next Furry Con in August. I'm kind of waiting for the schedule to come out to see if it's going to fit with us.
Yep.
We couldn't go to that one last year because it was the week school started. This year, it's the week before school starts.
So yeah, again, we're still figuring things out. Once school starts up again, I think we'll be a little less busy con-wise.
So we still should be able to record every weekend because I'm insane. I have events, but I have scaled stuff back. So it'll be maybe more like one-day events, smaller events for a bit, and then there'll be a couple stuff October, November when school's getting started up a bit more where we might have a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
But again, I think those events are important to give attention to too.
Yeah, so do I.
So if you take nothing else from this, and I say this I think at the end of any FurryCon videos, is people who are otherwise not associated with the furry community, we do have a blast at FurryCons.
We do. Like, this one in particular is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a lot, but it is a very, very unique event, and yeah, like, we have fun. It's close enough to us that, yeah, we can justify the drive without too many problems.
And at con, generally what the drive is for a con that had less programming, we might just do it as a back and forth, but because of the late night stuff, we don't.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, smart. Yeah. Particularly on 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
So yeah, I like it a lot. I can see that they're trying to make improvements, and I can see that they're listening to their audience with trying to make improvements.
Yeah. Which, again, I think is a good thing.
And a con of this size, there's always going to be a couple snafus, but it does seem like they did a much better job with crowd control this year than they did last year. I didn't feel unsafe at any point this year. I definitely felt unsafe at a couple points last year.
Yes. So again, you're getting better, guys. Good job. So, is there anything else in particular we want to say?
No. So we don't fully know. We're probably going to have a smaller con next weekend, probably Anime Ohio. To just kind of be a lighter thing to kind of do in between two fairly major cons, both in Pittsburgh, because Techo's in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So that's, I think, the more lighter plan for next weekend.
Yeah. So probably a shorter episode, less to say. Maybe just do it as a one-day. We're still
kind of planning it out. It's hard to even think about with how intense this was. Also, it's thankfully still a while away, but when school starts up, we will might do another bonus episode or weird episode content, because although I have stuff planned, I am taking off the week that school starts because
you need to actually do your job.
Yeah. And I also want to clarify with my job that I do not ever take off from work if I think it's going to affect my students' progress, because that's not fair to them.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant right now because it's summer, but
Yep.
in the school year, just know that if I have taken off work, it's time that I built into the schedule and given them an alternative assignment that I think will serve their needs.
Yeah.
I do not sacrifice my students' learning for anything.
Yeah. And it's going to be a case of you've got your timeline set up so that you're teaching until what, 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock, and for the first few weeks of school, I've designed it so we're not doing anything that would require us to stay overnight. It's more either conventions in Columbus or minor stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, again, once we get there, we'll figure that out. But we're now passing back through the Zanesville Roadworks. Yay for the Zanesville
short version of
Roadworks.
that is, if you do listen to our podcast, though, please come up and say hi to us, because that was awesome.
Yeah, we did really appreciate that. That was sweet. So yeah.
So we'll see you next week for hopefully a shorter, quieter episode.
Yeah, that was Anthrocon. Oh god. Also, we forgot to talk about today's costumes.
Oh yeah, I'm a unicorn. He's also a unicorn. He forgot his wig, so I had to wear my other wig.
Yep. But while we were getting petrol, I did get a guy did compliment me on the makeup.
You did not tell me that.
Yeah. You know the bunch of dudes who were hanging out on that truck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of them.
Cool.
I do not know how I feel about that.
Was it in a joking way or in a?
I don't know.
Well, you have, again, if you want to explore that side of yourself, I'm going to be supportive.
Yeah, I know. Life is weird, people. Life is weird. See you next week.
Congrats to those of you who listened to the end so you could have gotten that tidbit. Bye.